Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I would like to call the meeting to order at 5:32 p.m. And first, we'll do some housekeeping rules because we may be here quite some time. We have the venue until 10 p.m. Out those doors, the way you came in, that is the exit, and washrooms are through that door and then turn right. Could you also all please mute your cell phones? That would be appreciated. Thank you. Now I'd like to call upon Deputy Mayor Marecki to read the land acknowledgement.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge that the rural municipality of St. Andrews is located on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. We respect the spirit and intent of treaties and treaty making, and remain committed to working in partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration.
Thank you. Item 3, adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved that council adopt the agenda as presented. Could I get a mover, please?
I'll move that.
Councillor Dornbos, seconder.
Second.
Councillor Feeblecorn. All those in favor?
Correct.
That is unanimous. That is carried. Now, we're all here for the public hearing, so I will lay out the rules and regarding also giving information on the municipal board. The zoning bylaw public hearing process. Before we begin, I would like to take a few minutes to explain the process for tonight. The purpose of tonight's hearing is for council to hear the public on proposed zoning bylaw number 4438. Council is here to listen to the comments and concerns brought forward and may ask questions where clarification is needed. The hearing will proceed as follows. Red River Planning District staff will begin with a presentation on the proposed zoning bylaw. Our consultant, Megan of WSP, will speak on behalf of the municipality as applicant and provide an overview of bylaw number 4438, followed by those registered to speak in support of the proposed bylaw. Then we will hear from those registered to speak in opposition to the proposed bylaw. All persons speaking are asked to address their comments through the chair. Everyone will be called upon to speak one at a time. Presenters are welcome to raise questions or concerns as part of their presentation. However, tonight's hearing is not a question and answer session. Council may not be in a position to respond to questions as they are raised. Questions and comments will be noted, and where appropriate, Council, Administration, RRPD, or WSP may respond to matters raised later in the evening. We ask presenters to use their allotted time of 10 minutes, as this will be strictly adhered to provide council with the information, concerns, and comments they would like council to consider. So now, if there are sufficient objections for the municipal board, which I believe there is, I would also like to explain what the Planning Act refers to as sufficient objections, as there have recently been changes to this process. For the RM of St. Andrews, sufficient objections means objections from at least 300 eligible persons. If sufficient objections are received through the public hearing process and council gives the proposed bylaw second reading, the municipality is required to notify those who objected. Those objectors are then provided at least 14 days to submit a second objection. If sufficient objections are received again during that second objection period, the proposed bylaw must be referred to the municipal board. Under recent changes to the Planning Act, the Manitoba Municipal Board no longer holds a separate hearing for this type of referral. Instead, the board conducts an independent review and provides council with a report and recommendations. Council cannot proceed with third reading of the bylaw until those recommendations have been received and considered at an open council meeting. Tonight's public hearing is therefore an important part of this process. Council is here to listen and may consider changes based on the information and feedback received. If changes are proposed, the Planning Act also sets out requirements for when a further public hearing may be required. So thank you, and we will now proceed with the hearing. Braden. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to open the public hearing. Be it resolved that council hereby open the public hearing for the St. Andrews zoning bylaw number 4438 scheduled for August 12th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. Could I get a mover, please?
I'll move it.
Councillor Slaker, seconder.
I'll move that.
Councillor Dornbos. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, that is carried. Thank you, Braden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Council. So we have zoning bylaw number 4438, which is a new municipality-wide zoning bylaw for St. Andrews. So just a brief overview, what is this bylaw? So this bylaw replaces the current bylaw that is in effect since 2002, that was 24 years old. This also established updated land use regulations governing the use and development of land throughout the municipality. To talk about the roles on this application, WSP Consultants drafted the original bylaw. We were in charge of statutory review, provincial circulation, and application processing. As of yesterday, we did get a notification from the province there was an error. In provincial circulation, they did not receive the package completely on July 6th circulation, so they did request that we recirculate everything as of yesterday, and they did request the council to give them more time, which is what we would be recommending as well, to hear from people, hear from everybody, but adjourn the meeting to September 22nd with time and date and venue clearly listed. That was an error on the provincial regulation. We checked with our IT cell as well. Everything went out from our side. There was an error on the provincial side. Just to give a bit of a context of this zoning bylaw. So this establishes and updates the zoning classification and land use designations across the municipality, from agriculture and residential areas to commercial, industrial, and hazard lands along Lake Winnipeg. The principal zoning categories, there's agriculture general, limited, restricted, residential, general, suburban, rural, special, mobile home communities. In commercial, we have general, highway, recreation, tourism. Under industrial, we have general, heavy, airport, industrial park, parks and recreation, and hazard lands. So why this update and how did we get here? So the current bylaw that we have, 4066, that was adopted in 2002. Since then, the municipality's planning framework has evolved through St. Andrews Airport Plan from 2012, Lockwood Plan from 2013, and most recent we have the RRPD Development Plan that was adopted in 2020, making this update a long overdue. Timeline on this project, so in 2025, WSP was retained by the RM to draft this update. There were two open houses back in April 15th and April 29th for community input. In spring of 2026, the WSP consultants informally circulated the draft following background research. We did informally circulate to the province, and there were comments received. Those were incorporated in our feedback and the provincial feedback and provided to WSP as well. Following that, there was the first reading was given on June 23rd. And then the public hearing notice was published in the Selkirk Record on July 16th and July 23rd. And that brings us to today. So our recommendation, we do recommend that the council gives a second reading, but we would suggest that if council could defer or adjourn the whole public hearing to September 22nd, so the provincial feedback could be considered. That's all I have, Madam Chair. Happy to answer any questions.
Council members, does anybody have any questions of Mr. Singh? No? Thank you.
Okay. I will pass on to Megan to
Thank you.
talk about the bylaw.
Good evening. My name's Megan Bowles. I'm a registered professional planner and a member of the Canadian Institute of Planners, and am a lead planner at WSP. Our team has been working with the RM to complete a comprehensive update to the zoning bylaw. Today I'll walk you through the process, why the update is needed, key changes, and how feedback from residents, stakeholders, council, administration, RRPD, and the province has shaped the final draft bylaw. And my presentation is intended to provide a clear overview before council considers next steps in the adoption process. So work began in fall of 2025 with a background review, technical analysis, and early consultation with stakeholders. And this included reviewing the existing old bylaw, provincial legislation, the RRPD development plan, recent applications, development trends, and issues identified by the municipality and RRPD. Drafting continued through winter of 2025 to 26, and we restructured the bylaw, updated zones and standards, and revised mapping to better reflect current requirements. And at that stage, it also included an informal review from the province and Red River Planning District. Engagement took place in spring of 2026 with 2 open houses, followed by final revisions based on input from the public, province, council, and administration. Under the Planning Act, municipalities are required to adopt zoning bylaws that are consistent with the development plan. The development plan sets overall policy direction, while the zoning bylaw implements those policies through specific regulations. It establishes zones, permitted and conditional uses, and the standards used to review development on a day-to-day basis. And consistency with the development plan is the key measure or test for a zoning bylaw. The current zoning bylaw was adopted in 2002, and since then, legislation, development patterns, servicing, and community expectations have evolved significantly, and updates were needed to align with the RRPD development plan that was adopted in 2020, as well as meet current provincial requirements. And we also overall wanted to improve clarity, organization, and mapping within the bylaw. Engagement included 2 open houses, an online and paper survey, written submissions, and direct conversations with residents and landowners. There were around 170 people that attended the first open house in South St. Andrews, and 44 attended the second. The survey received around 100 responses. And so feedback was collected on the draft, both quantitatively through the survey and qualitatively through conversations and input, which helped us understand not just what people preferred, but why. And so key themes there really like lot sizes, density, servicing, infrastructure capacity, rural character, environmental protection, mapping, and overall clarity of the bylaw came through as key themes from the engagement. We also heard a range of perspectives, with some residents seeking more flexibility for future growth, while others really emphasized maintaining existing development patterns and characters. So we took that feedback and it directly informed the draft bylaw brought forward today and helped shape a balanced approach in the final draft. So what has changed? The bylaw has been fully reorganized to improve usability and clarity with updates across administration, definitions, zoning districts, use tables, development standards, and mapping. And that included consolidating and simplifying provisions so that they're easier to navigate and apply for both staff and the public when they're using the zoning bylaw. New and revised provisions address current issues, including secondary suites, home-based and farm-based businesses, accessory buildings on lots, environmental setbacks, and renewable energy systems. So these updates help ensure the bylaw reflects how properties are used today, while also addressing emerging considerations such as environmental protection and alternative energy. New planning tools have also been added. That includes the residential general zone and the airport planned overlay district to help guide future growth in appropriate locations. And overall, really, the bylaw has been modernized to better reflect the development plan, current practices, and issues identified through the review. This slide outlines some of the key changes and the rationale behind them. A new residential general zone has been introduced to allow smaller lots down to approximately 5,000 square feet with the option for multi-unit housing as a conditional use. This zone is not being applied to any lands at this time, but provides a tool for future growth in appropriate locations. Minimum lot sizes in the suburban residential zone have also been reduced. This reflects changing housing needs, including smaller household sizes and growing demand for more attainable housing options. These changes help improve servicing efficiency and support long-term growth for the municipality. In rural residential areas, minimum lot sizes have been adjusted to better reflect existing development patterns and provincial servicing requirements. So smaller lots are only permitted where appropriate servicing is available, while larger minimums remain in place where septic fields are required. Mapping updates were also made across the municipality. These changes ensure consistency with development plan land use designations, and where appropriate, responded to site-specific requests from landowners. So overall, these updates are intended to provide more flexibility while still directing growth to appropriate locations and maintaining the rural character of the municipality. I wanted to just highlight a few things about how the feedback we received, particularly at the open houses, directly influenced the final bylaw. A key concern was raised that smaller rural residential lot sizes could impact rural character and put pressure on infrastructure. So in response, the proposed minimum lot size was increased from what was proposed at the open houses from half an acre to 0.8 acres. And this helps maintain the existing large lot pattern while still allowing some flexibility where services are available. We also heard requests for greater clarity around how new residential zones would be applied. And so in response, the bylaw now clearly ties those zones to specific development plan designations, ensuring that they are only used in the appropriate locations. There were also concerns about higher density development occurring without adequate servicing. And to address this, the definition of full servicing was clarified that it requires piped municipal water and wastewater, and the intent of these zones was strengthened. More broadly, we heard strong support for protecting rural character, natural features, and quality of life. And so the bylaw maintains existing zones in most areas and really provides a balanced and moderate approach to changes. Finally, a number of property-specific mapping requests were received, and where appropriate, these were carefully reviewed and incorporated into the final zoning map. So overall, the result is a bylaw that responds directly to community input while maintaining alignment with what is required under the development plan and provincial approval processes. The proposed zoning bylaw reflects a comprehensive process that included technical reviews, policy alignment, engagement, and provincial input. It's intended to regulate development clearly and consistently in alignment with what is required under the RRPD Development Plan and the Planning Act. And following today's hearing, council may consider second reading as the next step in the adoption process. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Council members, does anybody have any questions for Megan? No, there are no questions. Okay, so I'll start with those in support. The podium is up here with the microphone. So the first person I'd like to call is Kelly Shimko. If you could come forward. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I actually wasn't expecting to speak. I just, put the X on. We, would like to see development where we are. We have property right next to Selkirk on Highway 9. And we feel that it should be rezoned to highway commercial or something similar to that. And we also have some property on Pruden, which presently is rural residential, requires 60,000 square feet, which is probably 120,000 square feet on the whole street. And there's already small lots on there. There's sewer on the properties, and we haven't been able to develop it since we bought it.
Okay, thank you. And we've also got your letter on file.
Good, thank
for
you.
council to consider. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
The next person checked in support is Agnes Luda. Did you wish to speak at this time? Oh, okay. Thank you. There, okay, Roxanne Anderson, we'll start with those that are here for information. Did you wish to speak, or you could speak at the end or now? That's fine. No, it's up to you if you want to speak in support. Or, sorry, you're here for information.
May I read a short letter?
Yes.
I didn't hear anywhere in the presentation about services for seniors. So that is why I'm here. I have a question on what plans does the municipality have to address the growing need for senior housing? According to the 2021 census, nearly 1 in 5 rural municipality residents in St. Andrews was aged 65 or older, and this proportion is expected to increase as the population ages. I have resided in the RM of St. Andrews for over 5 decades. I currently live in a large home in an isolated area on an acreage zoned A40, limited agriculture. My needs are changing. I have considered applying for a retired farmer's exemption to create a 5-acre yard site with a smaller home. And I didn't see that in any of the documents. However, maybe it doesn't matter in my case. However, due to distance, services such as grass cutting, snow clearing, independent living supports, Meals on Wheels, and transportation may not be accessible. I do not believe my situation is a one-off. Waiting lists for 55-plus life lease developments in St. Andrews and Selkirk number in the hundreds. I am informed that the wait time for me will be 10 years. A common pattern is for senior couples to move into these developments, and after one spouse passes away, for the surviving spouse to remain there for many additional years. Must seniors wait 10 years for age-friendly life lease housing to become available. Affordable senior housing that allows older adults to remain near family, friends, healthcare services, and the community they have helped to build is essential. When maintaining a family home becomes challenging, the lack of local senior housing may force residents to leave our municipality. Without 55-plus life lease options, seniors may be unable to downsize, reducing housing turnover for younger families. As our population ages, demand for smaller, maintenance-free homes and 55-plus age-friendly developments will continue to increase. Without sufficient local options, many seniors may be forced to relocate to other communities, losing access to the support networks and connections that help them age in place. I urge Council to make senior housing a priority by exploring partnerships with developers, nonprofit organizations, provincial, federal programs to increase the supply of life lease housing for seniors within the RM of St. Andrews. Such initiatives would help meet the needs of our aging population while supporting the municipality's long-term sustainability. Should Council establish a committee or seek volunteer citizens to advance this initiative, I would be pleased to contribute and have my name considered. On another note, special thanks to Council for the prompt and effective response during the province-wide 911 outage on July 22nd, activating both fire halls and quickly providing residents with alerts and an emergency contact number helped ensure safety. Thank you for your commitment to enhancing the quality of life for all residents.
Thank you. And could we get a copy of your presentation? Thank you. Sheila Smith. Okay. Okay. Michelle Ward. Okay. Steve Nesbitt. Hi, good evening.
Hi, I'd just like to reiterate everything she said. I think it's important. I've had two neighbors who both lost their spouses, 2-acre lots, and they had to move to condos in the city and leave St. Andrews. So I think that's wrong. So I hope that does something. The other thing I think about is when I read these acts, I have a lot of trouble really struggling with the minutia of it. So if we said we can now put condos or 50 square foot house, I'm okay with that. But if you look at the Walmart in North McPhillips, what they've done behind there, I don't think that would be good for St. Andrews. So my question and where the information I want is how can I find out what are the guardrails to keep us from becoming, you know, like a New York City or something like that? No, you know, just as an example.
See, and that's why we're relooking at the zoning bylaw. This council is very supportive of age in place housing, and we've amended the garden suite to make it so that it's not on a temporary post and it can be a permanent structure for families to age in place. But with Roxanne's comments, I support what she said. We do need senior housing here.
Yeah, but I've also read that, you know, we don't want St. Andrews to become like West St. Paul, where they're just putting up Costco's and.
No, that is called high density, the great big high rises. I don't
And
think
so
there's interest.
We don't have any of that. So the biggest, like, what's the biggest, like, if I had a very practical question, like, what's the biggest condominium that we could put in St. Andrews? Under this new bylaw, what would that be? Do we have a number? How does that work?
Well, we have one on gated community, 55 plus on River Road 76, like it's one level.
Yeah.
That would have to be applied for, unless we do discuss it and add it into the zoning bylaw. Pardon? Oh, yes, and we have Mapleton Lane apartment block. We don't have much for senior housing.
Yeah, no, but just say general condominiums. There would be like, that would be a, like what throttles it from becoming like a developer's dream, right? And just putting up $200,000, like $200,000 condos in a very small 5-acre thing. You know, what controls that stuff?
Perhaps Braden, because that's not really, there's no specific section for that.
Do you want me to answer this one?
Yeah, and then if you want to add.
Sure.
So it's really dependent on the zone of the lot and the size of the lot, and so there's setback requirements that are established in the zoning bylaw for yards, right? Like you have your front yard, side yard, rear yard, so that's going to limit sort of the structure that you can have on the site. And then there's also height restrictions in different, and they vary in different zones. And so those controls, like you said, sort of the parameters, it is what's in the zoning bylaw. Admittedly, it's hard to sort of visualize in that same way. Zoning also doesn't regulate like tenure. It can't say something has to be a condo, for example. It's more the type of building, so 2-unit dwelling versus a multi-unit dwelling, for example. So the seniors aspect of the housing is not a specific land use. It's a type of land tenure that, you know, then the developer would have to set that up as that type of, sort of structure of housing. But it would still be a multi-unit development.
And just to add on to that, multi-unit dwellings are conditional as written in the bylaw, the draft bylaw right now within the residential zone. So anything more than a duplex 2-unit building would require conditional use approval from council. Multi-unit dwellings are permitted in the commercial zones though. So commercial general, commercial highway as drafted in the bylaw. And then we also have a maximum height restriction within those zones, 35 feet.
3 stories.
And 3 stories.
Okay, thank you. I think that starts me on the right location.
Helen Clark, did you wish to speak now?
I think I need to hear a bit more first.
Okay.
Will there be a chance to speak later? Or ask a question?
Yes, towards the end, there will be more presentation. Okay. And the same thing with Tim Potter? Okay. Sorry if I missed this name up. Walter Schenker? Barb Fewer? Jennifer Mexner? Okay. Shelley Marquez? Marquis? Heather Larson?
So my comments are mainly related to the Red River Corridor, but I promise it's relevant, so stick with me. I swear it's on point. So my family and I moved into St. Andrews at the end of 2018. We're not residents who've lived here our entire lives, but we hope to be here for the rest of them. Because we're not native to the area, we've done a lot of research in order to understand what's been going on and the feeling and the concerns of the residents, and just talking to people and just wondering how this all got here. So here's just a brief synopsis of what I've learned. In my opinion, this is all my opinion, the province of Manitoba has caused all of the past and current issues with rezoning since they enacted the Red River Corridor. They've forced every municipality that bordered the Red River to install the wastewater systems. I swear it's on point, stick with me. They put deadlines in place for when these systems had to be installed by, not connected to, but installed by. Nobody wanted these systems, including the RM's council at the time, but they had no choice, and they had to install the main lines for residents to be able to connect to. So you're probably wondering, if nobody wanted it, then why did they go ahead with it, or why didn't they try to stop the province? They could have taken the province to court to try and stop it, but the province would have buried the lawyers in paperwork, legal hours, and time. The lawsuits would have gone nowhere, and it would probably have bankrupted the RM. So the council moved forward because, again, they had no choice. They tried to encourage the residents in the corridor to connect early and voluntarily, but understandably, no one wants to pay for a service they already have for free by way of their septic fields. According to the October 2025 RM newsletter, the system can handle up to 4,500 homes, if I understood the language correctly, and the agreement with the City of Winnipeg is for 1,800 homes. As of October 2025, according to the newsletter, 345 residents had connected to the system. That's either 20% of the City of Winnipeg agreement or 7.7% of the system's entire capacity, depending on how you want to analyze that number. Obviously, this means that the system is not paying for itself and is now a deficit for the entire RM to pay for through our property taxes until it's self-sustaining. Additionally,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but everybody has 10 minutes to speak. I see you've got a number of pages
it'll be there. I'm under time, I promise.
Focusing on is the zoning bylaw.
And it's coming. It's a point.
Okay, thank you.
I promise.
I'm just
it gets
reminding
there.
you.
No, I
Thank
promise
you.
it does get there. Additionally, I was present at the 2026 budget meeting. The RM's not growing in population. Because they're not growing in population, the federal government will not give the RM grants and funding that are available to other RMs who are growing, like West St. Paul. In fact, the RM's population has declined slightly since 2015, if memory serves. And because the RM cannot get certain funding and grants from the federal government and other growth-based programs, many departmental budgets are also limited, which means roads can't get fixed, services can't get added, staff can't get hired, etc. So what does this have to do with the rezoning bylaw proposed and why we're here? In order for the wastewater system to pay for itself, any new development within the corridor must connect to the wastewater system, which I understand is the rule. And we need to build as many homes as possible within the corridor to connect to the system until it is paying for itself and is no longer a burden on the entire RM. At the very least, we need the City of Winnipeg contract to pay for itself, and then, I assume, existing residents would also connect over time and the system would or could become profitable. My assumption is council knows the current 1.38 acreage minimum for new development in the corridor is too large and will take too long for development to occur. Therefore, the reduction in lot size is to allow for more homes to be built on smaller lots, and I assume, again, primarily within the corridor. The more homes we build within the corridor and the faster we build them, the sooner this sewage monkey can get off of all of our backs or be only on the backs of the ones in the corridor who will have no choice, like my family. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I don't want row houses, apartment buildings, or a massive concrete jungle like West St. Paul decided to build on Highway 9 either, but I do agree that certain sub-communities, if developed and thought out responsibly, could be beneficial to the community. I genuinely liked the idea of the seniors community proposal, and I listened to everyone's points and counterpoints on that argument. I have 2 in-laws who live with us, who are in their 80s and who are able-bodied. Fortunately, they are able-bodied and still help us take care of the property. But they do it because they feel they have to, not because they want to. And I would love for them to have options for continuing to live in the RM if they wanted to live in a smaller maintained property where they could come and go as they please and that they don't have to worry about mowing lawns or shoveling snow. They should be able to go for a short walk on a paved sidewalk if they wanted to without having to worry about how to safely get to that sidewalk. So I see 4 options for the RM. Keep everything as it is. This means higher property taxes for residents. No grants will be provided by the federal or provincial governments, and only minimal services can be provided by the RM due to the lack of outside funding. Keep the current rezoning bylaws as is, which means growth can happen, but will happen slowly, and will happen typically when a vacant lot is subdivided upon sale of the land, and if that is even proposed by the seller. Again, no grants will be provided by the federal government, and minimal services can be provided by the RM due to the lack of outside funding. Enforce a deadline for existing residents within the corridor to connect to the system ahead of the province's current deadline of 2031. The wastewater system would be put closer to capacity and would become profitable, but a third of the RM population will be unhappy at the enforcement. My personal hope is that no one on the council wants to try to attempt to force 93% of the residents, or about 1,400 homes within the corridor, to connect to a system that they don't currently want. Or allow for smaller zoning sizes and allow the opportunities provided to council to build subcommunities or subdivisions of land within the corridor where acceptable to do so in order to promote growth. Growth will promote federal funding, federal government funding, and more services can then be provided to the RM. I would also like to mention not a single person on this council caused this to happen, and the same goes for the prior council or even the next council. Every council inherits the unfortunate burdens of prior decisions. Not all of those decisions were theirs to make, and the current council is attempting to get the RM out of the financial sinkhole that the province has put us in by proposing some of these rezoning changes. If this rezoning proposal does not pass soon, then I also expect that the next council will attempt to do this as well. Therefore, my request for information from council would be, have I summarized the council's position accurately? And with this rezoning proposal, is it council's intent to build more housing primarily within the corridor, or is council hoping for these subcommunities to be built throughout the entire RM with the understanding that subcommunities outside of the corridor would have to have septic fields or sewage removal services of some kind factored into living there?
Thank you for your presentation. I see where you're getting. That question, we'll have Braden get in touch with you. Okay, because yes, a lot of this affects smaller lots in the South St. Andrews area. By your presentation, thank you, fully understand that.
Would you like
Yes, I'd very much like that, thank you. Alan Hawelko for information. Not here. Okay, Colleen Hawelko, might have left. Josh Graff, it's on Juniper Lane. Did you want to speak at this point? Okay, now we will start with those in opposition. Diane Durkach, would you like to come forward to speak to the podium?
Madam Chair, Council, I'm here today in opposition to this zoning amendment of the bylaw 4438. The initial bylaw that was passed, that was voted in and passed, had been implemented with a lot of consultation with the residents who participated on committees. The open houses that we had here, we attended one, and the one that we attended, there was no presentation. People were just walking through, looking at, boards with information on it. You were in a line, you come out, we didn't really get anything out of it. And then now the document that we have, that's over 70 pages of this document, and going back and forth through the zoning, the codes, the charts, it's really been a short time to do this review on it. And after reviewing the package, it seems like something's not right with the zoning amendment change. It just seems to be rushed. And the other question is, what will be different other than the land lot size changes to accommodate mixed high-density housing? The zoning amendment passed. In other words, should this zoning amendment pass, St. Andrews will have many versions of Winnipeg in our municipality versus new development with 1 or 2 acre lots. As we feel that we're entertaining a wish list here for some of the developers. The meeting of May 12th, there was discussion, with a developer, and we had seen maps of what he is now proposing to what initially he had been saying that he was going to build back there, because we know he showed up in our yard. We don't have to be developed to mirror places such as Gun Road in Winnipeg at Redonda, where homes are so close you can almost stand between them and touch them with your arms spread out. Multifamily homes on Peguis Trail are numerous in these areas, just to name a few. And then you have West St. Paul, new development on number 9 on the east side, multifamily, while on the west side, near the McDonald's, that's where you have the single-family homes, and they're built very closely together there. Highway 202 developers are building homes on 2-acre lots from the floodway. The homes are on completed roads, were purchased in no time, which proves that people want more than what city living offers. Concerns, water table. With high-density residents nearby, we may have our wells affected and may have to dig a new well or go deeper if it's possible. Sewer and water, the rates are going to increase. There's no doubt that if homes are built, they're going to be hooking onto the sewer and water, and they'll be paying, but rates will increase. Traffic is high now. Where would the access roads be? Mature trees lying currently on proposed land to be developed. What would happen to the tree lines that are currently on many of the proposed lands? And these trees are many years old and do add to the beautification of property and their homes to wildlife, birds. Then we have policing. We will need probably, of course, more officers. Fire, we're going to need more personnel, paramedics. And we have to also respect the amount of land that we have and not take away from the rural setting. The majority of people, as everybody knows, moved here for a reason, to enjoy this peaceful rural atmosphere. Amenities are close by in Selkirk, Winnipeg. People go to work. Recreation projects, schools, access to health care, fire department, enjoyment of wildlife. But we're going to need more of these things. And when we do get them, it's going to be on our taxes. So high-density housing is not the answer to enticing families to relocate here, but for what we have now. And homes on 1/3 acre lots now turned into densified housing. I don't know, the developer's wish list should not be entertained, by our council. Wards 1, 2, and 3 are the 3 wards where it seems that a lot of the development is scheduled on or searched out for by the developers. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your presentation. Might I remind everyone, Council is aware of the concerns of traffic, of wildlife, of the aquifer. We're not at a development hearing or a subdivision hearing today, and the reason we're here is for the rezoning that we had the open houses on, and I understand the document's 116 pages long. So I will be asking, please, if you could refrain from all of those things, because we're fully aware of that, and it would be appreciated when you come to speak, if you could refer to what page you're referring to or what section, because of the number of people here that are wanting to speak. This is going to be an extreme, we can only stay till 10 o'clock, but we will extend it to another location if we have to. So thank you for your understanding. But yeah, it's just strictly here tonight for the rezoning bylaw. Thank you. Okay, Brent Carr. Pardon? I did not sign up to speak. Oh, you're here in opposition, but that's fine. I'll just call, I have to call everybody's name on here.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
Chris Solondik. Okay. Sheila Smith. Oh, sorry, that was for information. That wasn't here. Murray Roscoe. Did you wish to speak? Tim Sharples. HW, I'm sorry, I can't read the writing. It's 60809A. Oh, boy. H, I'm sorry, I can't make out the last name at all. It's 6014 Highway 9A. Sure, please come forward.
I just had one question that was at the very end of the whole document, section 8.7. You listed like 2 lines for allowing for data centers, and you literally just said we'll do a noise analysis, and then
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
section 8.7 at the very end, you just made a comment for data centers, we'll do a noise analysis, and then up to opinion, basically. There's a lot more that needs to go into that if you're going to put that into your document, especially given they just canceled one in southern Manitoba. We shouldn't have to rely on the premier to cancel it because no one did any due diligence.
It's very hard to hear you because it's not being lifted up. Ah, thank you. You're talking about 8.7 data processing center?
Yeah.
I know, a lot of people are all against
It's
that.
like you need to either take it out and do a totally separate section on that, or get someone that actually knows what they're doing to review it, because there's environmental studies, water studies, noise, everything. Like, you've got nothing there. So if some developer comes in and just bypasses you, we're gonna end up with one in our backyard. And I'm not against them, but they have to be built right, and
I know
there's a
there
good way
was-
and a cheap way.
There's a big issue, it was on the news, another place, and they
They're
quashed
in
it.
lots of places, but that's because they try to build in the cheap way. And if you don't put the details in there, that's what they'll try and do if they find a lot.
So this question is for Megan, because it's on page 65, 8.7, Data Processing Center. Is that mandatory that that be in the zoning bylaw? Because I know what would be a conditional use probably application.
I can bring this to Megan, but I can confirm, yes, it's listed as C, conditional use in the industrial zones. It would require conditional use approval from council, and it would require a hearing. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, so in the use table, as Braden said, so it is only allowed in the M1 or M2 zones as a conditional use, meaning an application would have to come forward to council. It is also subject to the use-specific standards, which is the section that you note, and that, that is not necessarily like an exhaustive list of things.
Is there a reference to what that exhaustive list is? Does it exist?
I mean, I'm sure there's other requirements. It doesn't exist in the zoning bylaw right now. And I mean, that's not the intent necessarily. The conditional use process is there so that council has the ability to ask for those types of things for uses that may be, contentious. So, but it's also a good point. I believe the province has said they sort of won't entertain them, so it's a bit of a moot point anyways.
This administration won't
Yeah,
entertain them. That doesn't mean anything.
fair enough, yeah.
Okay. That's all.
Yeah.
Candace Cherry. Okay. Todd Cherry. Jackie Bailey. Could you come forward to the mic? Oh, okay. Okay. Allison Gudmundson. That's fine. Wendy Thomas. Dan Spear. Shelley Spear. Jay Sandylands.
You bought it, Jake. You just bought it.
Yeah, exactly. Before I get going here, Mayor Saul, sorry, you said something before. I just want to stop the disinformation about there is no 55 plus on River Road right now, okay? So I just needed to say that, sorry. But good evening, council members, Mayor Saul. Under the Municipal Act, Division 3, petitions, public hearings, I've submitted the physical 360 petitions of the opposition to the amending zoning bylaw 4438. I'd like this petition to be accepted as part of the minutes for this meeting. As a result, sorry, that's why I don't have my glasses. As a resident of St. Andrews, I am speaking on behalf of hundreds of residents, community members, voters, submitting our formal objection to the second reading regarding this proposed amendment to the St. Andrews Bylaw 4438. As always, I'd like to start by reciting the St. Andrews 2020 Strategic Planning Report vision statement, which states the following. St. Andrews is a proud, proactive, progressive municipality committed to continual improvement through the provision of services while enhancing opportunities and the quality of life for all in our community of communities, as well as under 2019 items for consideration. It also states that the council is trying to regain public trust. I'd like to note that I read this entire bylaw twice, and it was a little hard reading. I read contracts every day. If there's nothing to hide or deceive the reader, these documents should be written to the lowest common denominator, not to the highest educated. Words like notwithstanding. Does everybody know what notwithstanding means? Everybody know on the council? I'll let you know. That word means, with a show of hands, it means that it is the formal word used to show that something happens or is true even though an obstacle, fact, or condition stands in the way. You don't gain public trust this way by making documents lawyer-driven. You want easy to read, especially for everybody who is reading it. While there may be legitimate reasons to review and modernize municipal bylaws, the amendments currently proposed raise significant concern regarding their purpose, scope, community impact, infrastructure, and departure from the existing regulatory framework. There are 3 points I just want to speak about. One is the proposed amendments appear disproportionately centered on facilitating contractor-driven development. The proposed changes appear structured in a manner that would provide greater flexibility and accelerated pathway for development proponents, contractors, including the ability to effectively fast-track variances and departures from established requirements. There is an important distinction between making a municipal approval process more efficient than fundamentally altering the regulatory safeguards that govern development. Efficiency should not come at the expense of consistency, transparency, public participation, or equitable treatment of affected property owners and the broader community. A municipal bylaw should establish a predictable and impartial framework within the development which occurs. It should not be structured primarily around the convenience of those seeking to develop properly. The amendments do not, number 2, the amendments do not adequately reflect the broader interests of the community. Municipal planning decisions must consider more than the interests of individual developers or contractors. The RM of St. Andrews has a diverse community consisting of long-standing rural residents, agricultural operators, homeowners, businesses, and future residents. changes to the development framework can have lasting consequences for property values, neighborhood character, infrastructure capacity, drainage, traffic, municipal services, taxation, and overall quality of life within the municipality. The question before council should therefore not simply be whether this proposed amendments make development easier or faster. The more fundamental question is, are these changes demonstrably in the best interest of the community as a whole? My opinion is that they are not. At present, I'm not satisfied that this standard has been adequately demonstrated. And third, the proposed changes represent too substantial a departure from the existing bylaw. Of a particular concern is the position placed on the record by the Red River Planning District that the proposed changes constitute a too drastic departure from the existing bylaw. This is not a mere technical adjustment where an amendment represents a substantial departure from a regulatory framework currently relied upon by residents, property owners, developers, and the municipality itself. Council should exercise considerable caution before proceeding. A significant change to established planning rules warrants a correspondingly significant examination of its consequences, including whether the proposed framework remains consistent with sound planning principles and the long-term interests on the municipality. For example, the current minimum requirement for lot size is 1.38 acres. The amendment is now wanting to take that down to 0.8. That's a 42% drop. The most massive issue with this is that anyone could use a variance and go down to 0.5 acres from 0.8. So when I say the council wants to regain the public interest, this again is not the way to do this. My conclusion, 3 main points are as follow. The eccentric and in favor to contractor development to fast-track variances. Number 2, this is not reflective on or the best interest of the community at large. And 3, as stipulated into the record, the RRPD is too drastic in departure from the current bylaw. I'm not opposed to reasonable development, nor am I opposed to improving municipal processes where improvements are warranted. I am, however, opposed to amendments that appear to prioritize expedited development and contractor interests over the broader public interest, particularly where those amendments represent a substantial departure from the existing bylaw. This purpose of municipal regulation should be to establish a fair, transparent, predictable, and community-oriented framework for development, not to create a mechanism where established requirements can be more readily circumvented through variances or expedited approvals. At a minimum, I respectfully ask that the council defer consideration of the amendment and undertake a more comprehensive review of its implications, including meaningful consideration of the concerns identified by the RRPD and the potential effects upon the community at large. The long-term planning framework of this RM of St. Andrews should not be substantially altered simply because more permissive framework may facilitate development in short term. Council's responsibility is ultimately to the entire community, not to a particular developer, contractor, or development interest. In my opinion alone, we should really be looking at a solid plan to introduce more infrastructure, which in turn would bring more of what we can have as a proper residential development. In closing, I would just like to say that I'm not a lawyer. However, there are lawyers within St. Andrews that frown upon this application, and I'd like to remind the council that transparency, along with a solid development plan for all, would be a golden ticket to winning over us residents. Your constituents are wanting you all to do the right thing here regarding this amendment and by rejecting it for now. Thank you so much for your time and your commitment.
Thank you. I believe it could be S or L or Chieco, 5435 Highway 9. Melanie Fernandez. Pardon me? Okay. Oh boy. Michael Prisbitakowski. Earl Dick. Donna Linton. Brian Yarashuk.
I'll pass, Mayor.
Bill Ralph. Harold Wren. Valerie Wren. Jim Koshelnik.
I'd just like to say that I totally agree with Jay Sandilands.
Marilyn Marino. John Marino. Oh, no answer. Dave Botch. Audrey Botch. Oh, okay. We'll make note. Okay, well, I can't, it doesn't look like that. I don't know if it has to be adjusted to move up and down, but thank you. Ross. 10 Parkton Place. Eleanor Wren. Cynthia. Okay, thank you. Darlene Harder. George Cole. Trista Scott Harridge. Sorry, could you spell your last name, please?
It's Scott Harridge.
Herridge.
You got it, yeah. I'm just saying a big thanks to Jay Sandilands and everything that he said tonight. So thank you for all your hard work.
Could be Earl, same last name.
It's evident he also is opposed.
Okay. I apologize to some of you, but some of this writing, I just can't make it out. Daryl Debert.
Hi, Council and Mayor. There's three things that are a little disturbing to me about the whole process here from WSP's perspective, I guess. From what I read on the August 7th, 2026 Red River Planning District letter, you detailed the process, which was the drafting of the bylaw was completed under the direction of the municipality through a steering committee comprising of the RM administration, WSP Canada, and Selkirk Community Planning. So here we are today with a final document that's about to go to a room full and a whole municipality of people. And I don't think any of us have been consulted before as residents who are directly affected by this. We're directly consulted or polled through WSP, according to even what the outline is here. there are 1.2 acre lots for sale in West St. Paul right now. So there is a demand, and I know that we recently had a house for sale in our area. It went within a couple of days. So there is a demand for houses that are 1.3 plus acres right now in South St. Andrews. The other thing that I heard Megan use, efficient housing. And I don't have a definition of that, just like notwithstanding that we clearly got a definition of. And what would efficient housing look like from the WSP perspective? Perhaps I can get some clarification on that, because that's kind of important to this whole thing as well. And that's all I have to say. And I'm in opposition of this for those reasons.
Thanks. On that efficient housing comment, what page were you looking at?
I believe it was off the website, page 9 of the 122.
Page 9. Thank you.
It may not have been on there. I heard the comment.
Okay, we'll have Megan can address that at the end. Megan, thank you. Ray Kashuba, did you wish to speak? Don Rogochinsky? Cliff, same thing. Dan Precourt. Tricia's Precourt. Mary Lescue. Joan Griffin Parker.
Mayor and Councillor, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Welcome. You might be able to, I think you can just push it down. There you go.
I'm short, aren't I? Yeah. Okay. I am opposed, and thank you to Jay for what you said. But I want to just go back to something that happened a while ago. There was a survey on garbage collection a while ago, and the people filled out the survey and said, we don't want it. And Mayor, you very graciously sent an email out saying, thank you for the survey. Thank us for doing the survey. And you said you wanted to listen to us when we said no to the garbage.
Thank you.
All right.
Is it we're dealing with the
right, so we are saying no
rezoning
now.
bylaw.
Have you done a survey asking us whether or not we want this?
There were 2 open houses. There was
a survey.
Survey online.
What are the results of the survey?
That was all given in the presentation at the beginning by WSP. She has all the exact figures. That was all presented.
There's a lot of people who have said no. And if you can accept no for garbage, why couldn't you accept no for this? Thank you.
We're legislated to have a zoning bylaw. Brian Griffith Parker.
I encourage everybody to come to the podium and talk about what you oppose. Otherwise, council does not know what you're opposing. Do you oppose the 0.8 acre lots? Do you oppose 0.34? Do you oppose, what do you oppose?
High density.
But do you oppose?
Okay, order. Councillor Mondor, you must address all comments to the chair. Hayden Goodmanson. Richard Marchak. Or Marchall, I'm sorry. Marchak?
Short and sweet. Thank you very much for listening. I'm just opposed to multi-family dwellings that are attached. I am all in favor of single-family homes in, and this is just my own opinion, in 100, 125-foot frontage lots, but I'm primarily opposed to attached dwellings. I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you. And did you have a page number or where that was in this?
I'm sorry, I don't. No. I get it.
Okay. You want single-family homes? Okay, got it. Thank you. Dorothy Daly. Brent Daly. Barb Schmidt. Todd Schmidt. Okay. Oh, that's not them. M. Yarashek.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this afternoon, this evening. I have a question, and I'm not sure if it's covered in the whole planning, but it's on a slide that was presented with respect to piped water and wastewater. I'm familiar with the wastewater. I'm not familiar with any piped water that we have in our municipality. I, as well, support all of Jay's comments, and I do find it interesting that presentations with questions or in support of the rezoning were asked for copies, however, opposition was not. And finally, the Red River Road development is not a 55-plus development, as far as I can find in council meetings. Thank you.
Ann Ralph. Rick Grauman.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I really didn't expect to be addressing the council tonight, so I was really here today as an observer. But sitting there, I couldn't help but think of a few, I think, important points that need to be addressed here. And first of all, I appreciate Mayor's comments earlier that we're here to discuss the zoning. The fact is, these people are here about future development that follows after that rezoning. And what happens with the character of St. Andrews and the changes that result out of that redevelopment. We live in a very unique area. It's a natural setting, it's a rural setting, and we all appreciate the peace and quiet and space. That's the reason why we live here. But amongst that natural setting, there's also natural habitat. How is that going to be addressed in any redevelopment, in any rezoning? What protection and what regulations are going to be imposed as a result of that natural habitat? We also live in a very unique historical area. There's a historical character, and not pleased with WSP not referencing the historical character in their presentation. You speak about rural setting, but there's very significant historical significance to St. Andrews, of course, and archaeological significance to St. Andrews. How is that all going to be captured and addressed? So how is it that you're going to put in 5,000 square foot lots, which is like White Ridge, West St. Paul? This isn't those areas. This is different, this is unique, and we actually, as residents in this area, have an opportunity to capture that historical significance in the area. In my opinion, St. Andrews should be designated a parkland, that Red River Road should be 30 kilometers an hour, no more bikers down there, And let's embrace the space that we have, and let's not visualize that we're going to become West St. Paul and we're going to build a Costco across the street and we're going to do all kinds of stupid shit development. Let's protect it and let's embrace it and let's appreciate where we live, and let's not look at, foolish changes down the road. That's it. That's my piece.
Thank you. Thank you. Diane Grauman? Echo the same. You'll have to speak in the microphone, please.
Now you're going
I just wanted to say the fact that we didn't know, you guys are talking about all these dates and everything and all these get-togethers. We didn't get any of that. And to be honest, even this meeting, we walk a lot. We were talking to our neighbors none of them knew about it. None of them did. Seriously. And we didn't either. And we keep track of a lot of stuff.
See, it was advertised on the website, advertised in the paper. There was online survey, like we said, homes were contacted.
See, even they're saying no, see?
Well,
In the record, there was nothing in the record.
yeah, it was advertised. I signed the check for the bill. I know it was in there.
$4,000
But that's not what the issue we're dealing now.
for your reelection.
Mrs., this is not the purpose of the hearing, and I would there should be respect amongst all of us.
I wasn't disrespecting.
No, not you, the comments addressed over here. No. Thank you, I appreciate your comments, I understand. Irene Ball. I don't know. David Ball. No response. No response. Kelly Lee Smith. Dylan. Oh. Dylan Hermster. I apologize. Thank you. Jesse Robinson. Janie Sinclair. Scott Sinclair. Jenna Ramo. Karen Ramo. Same. Pat Wickett.
Good day and thank you. My name is Pat Wickett. I'm a 30-plus year resident of St. Andrews. I raised my family here, and the reason we moved to St. Andrews specifically was because of the size of the lots and the community itself. So my understanding of the terms of reference for the council, which is the guidelines at which they conduct themselves, is to make decisions that the people implement, not make decisions for the people. Now, having said that, it's clear that the REM has retained WSP, I apologize. I have not read the document, the bylaw, but we're in a tax shortage, is what I gather from this, because there's no other reason that we would have high-density housing or reduce the size of the lot size in the Red River corridor. And my understanding is that's where the majority of the intent is, to reduce the lot sizes in the corridor. It's not up north by Laurie's place. It's not by Rob's house. I'm pretty sure that if somebody wanted to put some high-density housing beside those places, there would be some opposition. So The high-density housing does have issues, and I am going to scratch the surface on it, and I apologize because you asked us not to, but I'm going to anyway. Our fire department has to change, which is a huge cost to us. The water usage in a high-density area, the aquifer is going to take a beating. Our schools, police, these are all things that the community pays for, and that's going to come out of our pocket. It's going to come from the homeowners. And so I don't think making a high density is going to fix our tax problem. The document is very extensive from what I understand, and just the little bit that I saw. I would suggest that it be tabled and that it gives the community the opportunity to be familiar with it. Jay, I don't know you, but thanks, man. Like, that was phenomenal. I'd like to speak to you after if I could. The question I have, and it's probably the most important question for everybody here, is I'd like to see a showing of hands from our council what their intent is and how they're going to vote on this amendment on 4438.
We're not done.
Lori, are you in support of this?
Mr. Wickett, we're in preliminary stage.
I understand
This isn't
that.
a vote.
No,
We
no,
still have amendments.
This is information for the community, and they have the right to know.
We have not.
We have the right to know. We elected you people to do the right thing and to keep our community as it is. I understand that we need some more resources. Maybe we need to manage our tax dollars differently.
Tonight is not an election. Tonight
I
is
understand
an
that, but
amendment. What are
the
your concerns on
My
the
concern
current
is how
rezoning
the
bylaw?
council is going to vote on this amendment.
That will not take place tonight. This isn't an
I know
election
you're
forum.
not going to vote on it tonight. My question to the council is, and I think I have that right, and I think the community has this right, we would like to know how you are going to vote when it comes time to vote for this bylaw.
I understand what you're saying, but my question to you is, how would you expect a councillor, how would you vote when you do not have full information? And we're asking the public input to make amendments to see what we consider, what the main, that is the purpose of tonight's hearing. We are not voting because we do not have information from the provincial authorities.
I know we're not voting tonight. I understand that.
But
That's
you
not
want to
that
know.
wasn't my question. My question was, what is your intent? And I think the community has that right. Mayor Sowell, I believe we have that right to ask our councillors and our mayor how they're going to vote. How are they going to support this? Clearly, you have commissioned WSP to come up with this. This is not the first time you're hearing about this amendment.
No, because we're legislated, and this document is over 25 years old, I believe, or it's 25 years
Well,
old.
2020, I think was the last time. It
2002. 2002. It's 25 years old.
Right.
All area RMs are in the process of updating their zoning bylaw.
Right, but we're talking about high-density housing.
No, we're not. We're
Yeah,
talking.
Well, we are. You're changing it from 1.38 acres
Okay.
to 0.8.
So to help council out, what do you want to change to?
Like, clearly, there's a little bit of pushback why you don't want to tell your community what your intent is and how you're going to vote for this. And I believe everybody wants to know. I think they do. They have the right to know. Ken?
We know very well.
Come on.
I'm not saying anything. This is a public hearing for a second.
I know, but I mean, we have
So much, and I know what we can talk together. But
we have the right to know this.
So much we can do to change this, and that's what it's all about. It's not about ramming something down.
Right.
So this whole thing about government's all bad. Listen, man.
I never once said that government was all bad. You might have been reading my mind, but I never said that. Clearly the majority of the people here are opposed to this.
Mr. Wickett, could you please, well, actually, Councillor Sliker had her hand up. She wishes to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
I understand your question, and I appreciate your question. but I put a lot of due diligence, just like Mr. Sandyland, into all of this, and I've been out in the community, I've listened, I'm doing my stuff, and I am here tonight to listen to what everybody has to say. Because there is also a large group of the 12,000 people that live in St. Andrews
Right.
that like this. So I want to hear, as Councillor Mondo, just a minute.
I don't think they're
as
here
Councillor
tonight.
Mondo
Sorry,
stated,
we'll keep the room please be respectful and speak one at a time.
as Councillor Mondo stated in his comment, please tell us exactly what it is you don't like. Jay did that. He's been doing that. I follow everything that he's put out there. But I can't, he's only one person. We need to take, there's lots of things in here I don't like. But I need to hear from everybody. Then we got to get the darn government stuff that they screwed up on. And then we get to come back and do it again. And again, we will collect more information. But for you to stand there and ask me to vote is very unfair, I think.
I'm not asking you to vote on anything. I said
You did. You wanted to know how we would vote for this, and that is not fair.
As this document sits today, my question was, how would the council support this? Would they support it, or would they oppose it? And I think the people in this room have the right to know how the people that they elected are going to vote on an amendment.
But you're not listening to me then, sir,
I'm
because
listening to you loud
just
and
said
clear.
I want to collect the information. Why would I sit here with an already formed mind? That's not the purpose of me being on council. The purpose of me being on council is to go out and fact find and talk to people and figure things out. And then we all got to come to, Mr. Sandylands and I have had this conversation.
Right.
We got to find a middle ground somewhere.
No,
Because I'm a single person that lives in St. Andrews, and if we don't do something, I'm going to get taxed right out of St. Andrews.
Right.
And like you, I've been here 25, 26 years too. And I'd like to stay in St. Andrews.
Yeah, it is about tax.
Okay, order. There's not going to be, that's a totally unfair question. and the-
Respectfully, Mayor, I believe we have, and yeah, I'm running out of time, Rob.
It's out, your time is up,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Well, I get 10 minutes under Robert's rules, and
And
I
10 minutes is up.
Yeah. So, anyway, thank you for the opportunity. I'm a little bit disappointed that none of you would have the testicular fortitude to want to tell your constituents.
Thank you for
how
your
would
comments.
support- how
Your
you-
time is up. Thank you. Jacob Gluting. Jacob Gluting.
Hi,
I think you have to pull it down harder, there you go.
How's this? That sound good?
Yeah, I keep looking at Mrs. Botch. Can you hear? You're
Okay,
good.
so I have a few concerns over stuff I've heard online, but I haven't been able to find on here. I've told it's been amended and added. That is to do with amount of vehicles you can have on your property. I've heard it's being capped to 6. And out in the country, there's a lot of multifamily homes that have more than one vehicle. So I'm a little worried about that. And as previously touched by other people, infrastructure. I'm worried about our landfills, our RCMPs, our busy highways that are super busy now. And those are just some of my concerns with what could potentially come from this in the long run.
Okay, thank you. That's one of the things on the list to look at about the number of vehicles in the yard. And that's why we're here, and we thank you for your input. Thank you. Rhonda Keller. Dwayne Keller. Anna Mondor.
Dear Madame Soul and RM Council, I would like to talk, the lady was talking about the senior housing and the need for the multifamily development. And as a certified economic development professional for over 15 years, I completely agree that is the need for the community. The adopted Lockport plan specifically says that multifamily residential designation should be located adjacent to or close the major roads PTH 9 and PTH 44 and near commercial and mixed-use areas. We have Lockport, and Lockport should be the area with the main floor commercial and the multifamily development that seniors doesn't need to use the car during the winter time and can definitely go and to these different stores and have their needs completed. A second. And I'm against that in existing neighborhoods, what we have in St. Andrews, we're putting multifamilies that, first, they're not fit. Second, it's not follow the historical accent of St. Andrews. And there is a need, there are investors interested in to build in Lockport. I was contacted and I met Enriquez with one developer who is ready to build multifamily building in Lockport. And I have another one from Winkler who's also on the land in Lockport and also is interested in to build in St. Andrews. So is it the need? But we don't have an infrastructure in place. And the first things when they ask me is, do we have a commercial grade for lower sewer? Do we have in Lockport? Joy, do we have the
It's in the whole Red River corridor. It's in our bylaw. There's a
commercial grade for lower sewer, or
There's
the
all
residential
different-
grade we have for lower sewer?
Yeah, there's all different categories.
Correct.
For restaurants, for commercial, for residential size of pipe.
So this is in a planning, right?
No, it's already in place. It's been in place for since 2021.
So my question is, what's stopping to build multifamily development in Lockport? Close to the corner, I'm not talking about the residential development in in Lockport. I'm talking only about this commercial zone that is already developed on the close to Highway 44, right? And it's also developed in the other side of Lockport. And together with St. Clements, you could make amazing things.
Oh, it's been in, as far as I've been on council since
why
2014.
and wants to build in the middle of residential? That's my question.
As far as I've been on council, those developers, I know who you're talking to, those, the Winkler and that the plan has always been to sort of mirror what's across the river at St. Clement side. With commercial, multifamily, senior, one proposal right now is before the municipal board. We don't know when that one will be heard.
But we're talking only about St. Andrews because that's our taxes. St. Clements has their own taxes for
No,
identity.
I'm explaining on number 9 and 44 was your question?
Yes.
That's what's been in the works since 2007.
So why nothing is moving?
Because the developer was waiting for water, and we've signed an MOU 3 years ago with St. Clements to bring water under the river.
Great. So when you plan to start development of senior housing in Lockport?
That's all up to Water Services Board. St. Clements is the main applicant in it, and we've been waiting for funding.
Perfect. So I'm glad to hear that, but I'm against this high density in the middle of residential areas, and especially in the south.
And what number are you referring to here? What page or what section?
You know, I am not a Copperfield. I don't remember off the top of my head which page it was. I'm sorry. But that's the fact that this bother me, because South St. Andrews should have 1.3 lots, and there is other areas in St. Andrews that we can use closer to Selkirk, connect with Selkirk, with a high sewer also, if we look closely. So there's other opportunities, and that would be more beneficial for seniors, because the seniors need services. If we put in the middle of residential lot, then there's no close services around them. right? So we have to look at them. I'm not talking about the 10-minute cities at this moment, but we have to look, when we build these multifamilies, we need to have a services around of the seniors. And that's the Lockport is for. Thank you.
Thank you. Wanda Nychuk. Thank you. You'll have to push the microphone down.
Are you making fun of my height? Hi. I've lived in St. Andrews for over 20 years. My husband and I were both born and raised in Winnipeg, and we decided we wanted to move to a rural setting with our children, and that is what we did. We love the community. I understand what you guys are trying to do. I'm not 100% opposed, but I would say I'm probably 99% opposed. I want to thank Jay for all the hard work that he's done. All the points that he has made is exactly what I am against. And I also want to bring up the whole idea of the vehicle restrictions. My husband and I both drive trucks, recreational vehicles. You know, it's not something that I think that restrictions should be put on. It's not in Winnipeg as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know, sorry. So I don't see why it should be put on to a restriction for us, especially with our lot sizes and our yard sizes. I think that's about it that I have to say.
Thank you for bringing up the vehicles. That's on our list. We received other, we're going to look into that. Thank you. Tim Dirks. Troy Reimer. Kelly Dion.
Opposed, but I agree with Jay Sandiland.
Kim Brasic.
Hi. Sorry. Good evening, Council, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. For more information. You're from St. Andrews, you're active in the community, and you're asking questions, and I think that's a wonderful thing. I wasn't planning to speak, but I do have a couple of things I think I would like to say. First of all, I do have some letter of opposition letters here and a petition here. Can I pass that to you or to Braden and officially submit it during this meeting, or how does that work?
We'll give it, Braden will take a look.
Sorry.
Were the letters of opposition, were they emailed in, or like, do we have copies? Because we got over 200.
Yeah, these were physically signed copies for people in the community that don't have Facebook or not very familiar with the digital output, and they felt
Oh, okay,
an
thank you.
opportunity. Yeah.
We'll add them to the list, thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to verify something before I kind of communicate, so this is a public hearing, so this is like a council meeting almost, same rules apply?
No. I read the rules at the beginning, and this is a public hearing strictly dealing with the rezoning bylaw.
Okay.
And we want public input
Okay.
as to what changes or what you want to see, because this, whoops, sorry, what you want, so council has something to look at to take into the consideration of what the people are asking for.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Can council members call point of order? Does it still work in that form? I just wanted to kind of remind everyone, because it's...
Why, are you going to start yelling at us?
No, not at all. Not at all. Actually, not at all. Like I said, I'm not really prepared. I'm just whatever on the top of
So if you could just, you've got a 10-minute time limit.
Thank you. No,
If-
the reason I'm saying that is because you did make mention, it's lots of people, we have a limited time, but I just wanted to remind you all that this is our opportunity to speak. Like, this is our time to be able to say what's on our mind, and it makes things a lot better because you kind of get it out. We can have a nice conversation, but when you get interrupted and you get stopped and said, oh, we already heard this or whatnot, it aggravates the process, which I think is very unnecessary.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard all the rules that we're going
I
tonight?
didn't. That's why, my apologies.
Okay.
But I just
So
wanted to
if you
verify
could
that.
point out to council
Yeah.
what concerns you have with the zoning bylaw.
Okay, perfect. My concerns are based on significant impact and the proposal could have on our community, existing residents, property owners, and long-term character and sustainability of the area. Lack of communication and consultation. The open house, myself, I found very hard to find. So as far as the process of the community to be able to participate in this was kind of, I feel, in my opinion, hidden. I pay attention to all the council meetings, I go on the website often, and I know when the open houses came, it was very difficult to find. It was like 3 clicks in, little things like that. It wasn't like in the record, like it wasn't even on St. Andrew's social media page. So just presenting that opportunity of advertising, it bothered me, so I had a difficulty finding that, as well as this one, and I found this public hearing as well, being in the middle of like August, in the middle of summer, when a lot of people are vacationing and whatnot, it just didn't feel like you, as a municipality, were presenting the opportunity for us to come out and, ask questions or learn more and so on. So I just wanted to kind of make mention of the lack of community consultation.
So do you have a page number of what you want changed in here?
So loss of public oversight, okay. I have a list of things that, yes, bother me, or what will result if this bylaw goes through. I'm speaking to council in this sense right now, I don't understand. The presentations that you give to the community, which was apparently a combination with the stakeholders, which I thought us residents, since we pay property taxes, are all stakeholders, should have been involved in the process right from the beginning. And I truly don't feel that we were. And like I said, even open houses, public hearing, it doesn't feel like we're getting a very good transparency. That it seems, it makes me not very trusting with the process. And I really think that doesn't need to happen because you are council, you were voted in from the people, and you're supposed to represent the people. And everyone getting along and doing a collection of ideas gives that opportunity. But I don't feel that the municipality has presented that. And that's not fair to you either, because how are you supposed to make a decision if those opportunities were not presented to you as well?
See, and that's the opportunity we have tonight.
Yeah, but it's
But you're
pretty far
not,
in. We're in almost at reading 2. So we're very far in. Storyboards, and I'm sure you've all heard this when you were campaigning wastewater. I promise this makes sense, but everyone was like, I hated that. You went through and storyboards and they come, they go. There was no like formal sit down or presentation and a question and answer period. Storyboards are great for people who just want to come in, but there's a lot of people in the community that, you know what, right from the get-go, if there was communication, that I think you would have stronger beginnings and bylaws and just like you would answer a lot of the ratepayers, stakeholders' concerns. So we wouldn't have to come this far. It wouldn't have to be so protested. So that's just something I wanted to add there. This document, this bylaw, council this is a tough one. I oppose it in the form that it's in. I do feel that there should be input from the community, and it should be known that this is happening like as much as you can. It just doesn't seem very transparent right now.
Thank you. Yeah, okay, we get that. So what section are you opposing?
Well, here's the thing. I missed the information at the beginning. I've heard I came in kind of after.
It's all written. It was on the website. You said you pay attention to the website. It was on the website for over a month.
Okay, so again, Jay made a really good point, or there was a few people, wonderful people that made points here tonight, but I don't have time to go through, was it 161, 111, 71? I mean, line by line by line. I came up to some of you at the open house and asked questions, and even you were like, I'm not sure, go over there, right? Shout out Braden, you're awesome. We have really great employees at the RM. So this is where the confusion comes in, right? I came out and I feel like I have misinformation right now. I really do, because I was told that, okay, reading from a map, trying to dissect it, wasn't clear. My area, which is SRA, was going from 100-foot frontage to 65. Okay, there's 35%. When I asked, well, what about the depth? Oh, there isn't one. So has that changed? Is that correct? Same with, it's 1.3 acres in RA zone, but now it's going down to 100-foot frontage. Okay, how far back? Is that in there? I don't know. I'm gonna have to go through there. I'm gonna have to look for this information, where if we had a forum where it's like, hey, let's present it, and same with the council. When people come and ask you questions, you should be confident that, yeah, no, I know the answer to that, right? Where if there is a concern, you got an answer to that. The presenter has an answer to that. The CEO, giving that thing, so all of these things are taken care of, instead of us going and deep diving in it, right? That's my frustration with this process. I don't feel like I have or know enough, and I need to, or feel like I need to really sit down and ask certain questions, and I would recommend doing it in a forum where there is residents in there, so that you do have multiple brains and questions coming out that maybe somebody didn't think of. Collaboration would make this really well. I really wanted to state that. I mean, I'm not for densifying, high density of the area. I moved here 20 years ago. I left Winnipeg. I love the rural setting. Rural life is very different from city life, and a lot of these, from what I understand, is you're bringing a lot of that here. Not to mention that I don't understand from what I'm seeing, from when I'm watching the video or the council meetings and stuff, is right now it's not that no projects can come here. From my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, conditional uses can come up. If a developer has an idea or whatnot, you can come and approach council. That's what you're there, the safeguard, you ask questions, you hear feedback or whatnot. Public hearings, people can hear, they can oppose or whatnot, and you can make that decision. So the document, from what I saw from the open house and the suggestions, what that says to me is it's taking all of that away from having to come see the council, which means not having a voice of your residents if they oppose. So it almost seems like this document, and like I said, this is my opinion, and from what I understand and from my experience, it is letting developers do more of what they want and not bothering council. So for me, what I would suggest is don't do reading number 2 until you actually do a town hall, do something, advertise it strongly.
We're here for a public hearing tonight, and I wish to thank you for your comments, but you're well over your limit. There's a number of people behind you, so thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Daryl Pohl. Daryl Pohl, do you wish to speak? And it would be appreciated if you have a page number or what. your concerns are with the
Well, the page
zoning
number was
bylaw.
mentioned when I got here, so I don't have page numbers referenced. Had I known that prior to coming here, then I would have referenced page numbers. So it'll be pretty easy to reference some of the things I'm talking about, because I won't try to repeat a lot of the things that happened already. So I'd just like to thank council for allowing me the time to speak and holding this hearing. So some of the things I wanted to talk about were, there's been a lot of talk about lot sizes, but one thing that hasn't been mentioned is decreasing lot sizes has an inadvertent side effect of lowering property or home prices to attract additional buyers and additional markets who can afford lower purchase prices. In doing so, that also trades community safety by inviting increased violent and property crime for trying to make the system profitable, the wastewater system profitable, after many residents identified the financial shortfall risk in the first place. Stats Canada, you can walk into that and it correlates lower income with higher crimes in these categories. So if you wanted to look into more of that, you can see that. I just don't want to see us increasing density just because we see other RMs do it, so we got to match what they're doing, but we also match the crime rates that come with that. So I'd rather not see that. So increasing density with the rationale that we need more money for taxes is not necessarily a solution. With increased density comes increased costs across the board, and the increased revenue will not be enough to cover the currently needed revenues and the increased costs that we required for infrastructure changes needed for the increased density. So I don't think it's a reasoning to say, hey, we need more tax revenues when if we increase the density, it's going to have to change our infrastructure anyway to be able to support all the new infrastructure. So it's not really giving us a dollar for dollar value. We're actually going to be in the negative. On the point of citizen feedback, outside of this open house, which I appreciate, outside the open house with the flashcards that we had the other one at the St. Andrews Community Club, how many residents were approached to provide direct feedback that contributed to the zoning bylaw, and was it only by a survey? Sorry, I missed that portion because I was up front. Is there a number of residents that we have?
All of that was given in the presentation by WSP.
Beautiful. So you have a number?
I didn't write.
WSP, do you have a number? Sorry, the survey was what? Cool. So the open house, there was tallies of all of the commentary that was made through the open houses? Or is it just based on what the feel was of council?
No, I explained in my presentation that the feedback was received both quantitatively through the survey,
Right?
qualitatively through discussions that we'll have with WSP staff, administrators, and council that we're at.
So the qualitative portion was based on feedback from the council on what people had talked to them about? No, I'm just trying to understand that better because I'm trying to understand the numbers. That's all. Okay. No. I appreciate that. Thank you. One thing that I don't feel has happened in regards to this entire process is I feel there's been a much larger effort to digitally reach out to residents versus reaching out to people that don't have a digital online presence. So there seems to be more effort on that end than there is on the other side. And when I say the other side, sending letters out to people, doing physical surveys instead of online surveys. So there's a lot of people that don't necessarily have a digital presence or don't really want to deal with the digital side. I don't feel we've done enough of that. And we know that there's a high significant number of people like that in our community. I think there should have been a lot more effort done on that end to be able to gather more feedback, and we'd get a lot more information. So I would venture to say we should be doing some of that and being able to get that. There's a gentleman that mentioned data centers, so I don't want to rehash what he had said, but there was a mention that there was a mandate to include it in the bylaw. Who's mandating that to include it in the bylaw? Is that the province?
No.
So there's no mandate, so we can delete that from the bylaw altogether. Okay, so I would suggest deleting it altogether from the bylaw, and that's my opinion. Increasing density. So, and I'm not talking about high density, I'm just talking about increasing density, because that's what some of the proposals are doing. I continue to hear the RM growth is stagnant compared to the other RMs, and we need to keep up because developers don't want to come here. So I've spoken with some contractors and some developers, and the feedback that I've received is they don't want to come here because the inconsistencies with the applications of our bylaws, as well as the poor performance from the RRPD. So they don't even mention the rest of that.
Yes,
Well,
thank you for those comments. And again, it's all things we've heard before. Council is fully aware.
I appreciate
Do you have something to add that you would like to see changed? We got the data center. Council will be having discussion on that.
Sure, so I'll continue so we don't use up my 10 minutes. The 55 plus development, I like that there was a lady that spoke about it. She spoke greatly about it. But the one thing that isn't in there that we've run into in the past with developments that have come to council is there's no way to specifically cite out a 55 plus community with the bylaws. So we need to find a way around that. We need to find a way to be able to do that. Or if I don't know, I don't have the answer. My point is we need to find something to be able to do that, because yeah, there's a lot of residents that have talked about that, and that's 100% something that should be done. I just don't know how to do that. Maybe there's a way that we can target certain markets of developers. I don't understand. But the point is, I agree with that. And the farm splits idea, I think, is a really good idea. It's come up many times before. That's something that we should probably put in the bylaw. So I heard Councillor Sliker talk about support for the amendments. You know, we referenced 12,000 people. There's lots of people that support it. Have those people you spoke with submitted letters of support?
I'm sorry.
The people that you spoke with, you said they support these amendments. Have they submitted letters of support to this hearing?
Well, unfortunately, the people that support it they're just like, okay, that's good, we need to grow, like, let's go.
So they didn't submit letters?
You don't see them here.
Well, that's my point, is...
But that's why I'm here tonight.
Understood. If we look at the letters of opposition to support, it's very clear on which way the community leans. So I'm just referencing that to make a comment. Anyway. So to move on, the number of vehicles, I agree with abolishing that altogether. I think that's ridiculous. If you look at a family of 4 with a couple of teenagers, you're already over the limit. So to me, you're automatically discriminating against larger families. So I would say that should be abolished. So, and I also heard there's a lot of people here today that aren't making opposition statements, but there's also a lot of people here today that already submitted opposition letters. So there's a reason why they're not making statements and making references to the things they oppose, because they've already done that. So just take that into account. I want to echo everybody else that spoke tonight, because I thought there was some fantastic commentary in here, and I think some of it should be included. But I request that the council reject the proposed amendments. I just don't think it's something that I can support. Thank you.
Chris Jelfs.
Thank you. Nothing to add to that.
Jana Wilson. Karen McKenzie.
Madam Chair, Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I will try very hard to do 10 minutes. I've edited this thing 10 times already to make it shorter. And you have hard copies in front of you. So I'll do my best, and if I run out of time, perhaps, Madam Chair, you can read the remainder of my presentation into the record for me. The stated goal of this zoning exercise was to update and modernize the zoning bylaw to better reflect current provincial legislation, the Red River Planning District Development Plan, and the evolving needs of the community. You've heard from various interest groups and stakeholders. And while it's late in the process now, this is the public's official forum to contribute. And I hope you'll keep an open mind to what the residents are submitting this evening. It's no secret that modernizing aspect has been largely driven by developers' desire for lucrative project opportunities and increased property tax revenue for the RM. And you see smaller residential properties as the answer. You've made that clear. But does this modernized bylaw meet the evolving needs of the community? How do you know? Community members were invited to submit comments at the open house, which, by the way, was not advertised in the newspaper or the Connect system, and I think the Connect system needs to be used more for this sort of thing, and via the online survey. Now, both took place after the first draft and after consultation with developers and owners of currently undeveloped lands, but the people who live and work in the community and have built it are also stakeholders. Was a housing needs assessment done as part of the modernization process? Maybe Megan can address that later in her comments. You can't say that you have identified community needs without including the people who live, earn a living, and hope to retire in the community in the discussion right from the beginning. I want to focus on residential zoning since time is limited. This draft bylaw proposes some significant changes to residential zoning districts with reduced lot sizes, primarily impacting South St. Andrews and properties within the Red River Corridor designated area. But residential zoning districts also exist within settlement centers and other areas to the north, including Clandeboye and Petersfield. We don't live in urban environments like Winnipeg and Selkirk, where piped water and sewer are standard. For us rural dwellers, required lot sizes are dependent upon sewage disposal options and groundwater availability, which varies significantly from area to area within the municipality. Therefore, in my opinion, it makes no logical sense to set minimum lot sizes without first acknowledging the constraints of servicing those properties, whether they're in the south or in the north. I'm concerned that servicing and provincial legislation and municipal policy have not been adequately factored into this draft document. I'll give you a few examples. Table 9-3, dimensional standards. That's at the end of your document. Still references the default minimum lot area of 60,000 square feet for RR and SR zones. That's not in line with current provincial regulations and must be changed. In 2009, the province mandated minimum lot sizes that are 2 acres in area and 198 feet wide for properties serviced by septic disposal fields. Before that, municipalities across Manitoba independently set lot size minimums, and that's where the 60,000 comes from. There was no standardization. At one time, even an acre was considered enough for a septic field. There was no science to those decisions. My second point, also in 2009, provincial legislation created the Red River Corridor, where the installation of new septic fields or modification of old ones is prohibited. The only option going forward are holding tanks or connection to the wastewater system, and yet your proposed bylaw specifies a minimum lot size of 60,000 square feet or 1.38 acres for the RR zone with just a footnote indicating the size can be reduced to 34,848 square feet or 0.8 acre and 125 feet wide if the property is on a holding tank or connected to the wastewater system, as if we have choice. We don't. The vast majority of land currently zoned RR exists within the corridor. So let's be honest. In reality, the proposed default minimum in the RR zone that you're proposing in the corridor is 0.8 acres, period. Rezoning is no longer required under your draft. Outside the corridor, of course, it's a different story. The 2-acre minimum must be the standard to accommodate a septic field in accordance with provincial regulations. My third point, location matters. You've created the new RG zone for fully serviced lots within settlement centers. Lockport is currently the only location where a plan for piped potable water is being contemplated, so we're left to assume that the RG zone will only exist in Lockport, even though that's not explicitly stated, and it probably should be. Also, the zoning bylaw should stipulate the minimum lot sizes will differ for other residential zones, RR, RA, and SR, based on their location within the RM. SR zoning, for example, is common north of Selkirk, where the province mandates a minimum lot area of 2 acres for a septic field, but the minimum could be less in areas where holding tanks are used instead. You've proposed a default minimum of 60,000 square feet, which, as I pointed out, is at odds with the legislation, and 15,000 if the property is exclusively serviced by a holding tank. Then there's the RA zone, which becomes more complicated because it currently exists in the south and the north, inside the corridor and outside the corridor. Outside the corridor, the provincially legislated minimum of 2 acres applies unless holding tanks are used. Inside the corridor, where holding tanks or connection to the wastewater system is mandated, the RM has more discretion to set reasonable lot sizes. And yet the new bylaw proposes 3 RA lot size options purely based on dwelling type, regardless of location in the municipality. The permitted minimum of 6,500 square feet for single-family homes and duplexes with conditional options for row houses at 3,000 square feet or 30 feet wide, and multifamily at 10,000 square feet. That might be viable in Lockport, but land is also zoned RA in places like Clandeboye, Petersfield, and along the Netley Creek. Can the local infrastructure and services, including the sewage lagoon, currently support or is likely to support that level of intensification of development in the future, and also respect surrounding environment? Have property owners expressed a need for such intensification in that area? It's my opinion that defining residential zones by level of servicing, like fully serviced, partially serviced, unserviced, and also by location within municipality is critical. Fourth point, how small is too small? The RRPD development plan requires that proposed development will have a sufficient supply of potable water without negatively affecting the supply or quality of potable water for existing adjacent development. They must consider it important because it's repeated 18 times in the document. The RRPD drinking water plan that was completed in 2014 in compliance with the Planning Act mandates that municipalities must demonstrate the capacity of the aquifer as a sustainable water source prior to approving development. It's on page 36. And for more emphasis, contains the following on page 8 of that plan. It is critically important that municipalities understand whether the aquifer can provide enough water to sustain additional development, particularly in areas of the planning district where intensified development is occurring. Yes, it is critical because we all depend on groundwater at the current time. And yet the proposed bylaw doesn't even mention the word groundwater at all. The new RG zone is the only one requiring piped potable water servicing. All other zoning districts must be of an adequate area and width to support a domestic well. So what's an adequate size? The province doesn't currently regulate domestic groundwater wells in our province, so it's left up to municipalities to determine how small a lot is too small to support a well on a given property in a given location. The new bylaw proposes lot sizes as small as 3,000 square feet and 30 feet wide for a row house in an RA zone without access to piped potable water. I'm imagining a well is drilled no more than 30 feet apart, and that concerns me. Where is the empirical evidence to support that? Have studies been done? For example, in the RM of Springfield in 2018, they did an aquifer capability and groundwater vulnerability study. I think we're hard-pressed to, or it's time for the RM to do that here for the entire municipality. I get even more concerned when I see a 3,000 square foot lot under the RG zone requires piped water when the same size lot proposed under RA zone does not, even though both zones are envisioned for settlement centers, Lockport in particular. What's the difference? How are these lot sizes determined and by whom? Remember that the municipality has an obligation to ensure that any given property is of a size and location that can be serviced with adequate potable water.
All of this you've got, I can't keep up writing my notes. It's all in your letter you submitted to council.
It is. Are you cutting me off?
No, you're over time, but I just want to know, I couldn't keep up with the notes. On my notes you were writing, so that long letter you submitted. The long letter, the letter you gave us, that's what you're reading from that we have a copy of.
That's correct.
Thank you, because I couldn't keep up on my notes.
Okay.
Yes.
Should I talk slower?
No, you're over the limit, thank you.
Can I finish?
Yes.
I'm on my last page.
1 minute.
Okay. Okay, so I thought I was done putting down my thoughts on paper after point 4 until I read section 7.18, which talks about subdividing attached dwellings into separate parcels with a minimum area of 2,000 square feet and 20 feet wide. This clause applies to all zones apparently in the RM, irrespective of the lot dimension standards specified in Table 9-3. Where in the RM would this make any sense? What's the issue you're trying to address? For context, I looked to see if other RMs have this clause. I found it word for word in the City of Steinbach zoning bylaw, which was also prepared by WSP Canada. Steinbach is an urban center with piped water and gravity sewer. We are not. Was this perhaps an overzealous copy and paste, or was it intentionally included? Where would a well get drilled on 2,000 square feet? What about the holding tank placement on a 20-foot wide property when provincial regulations require a 10-foot setback from the property line? Please make this make some sense. Maybe Megan can address this one as well. So what am I asking you to do? If you intend for the new zoning bylaw to comply with provincial and municipal law, make sure it actually does. If the significant reductions in residential zone lot areas and widths proposed are supportable and sustainable, show us the evidence, and remember that St. Andrews is a large municipality and what's needed and what's possible differs across the municipality. If you want to ensure that the bylaw changes proposed will ensure housing needs in our community are adequately met, ask us what those needs are. Finally, here's my biggest concern. I fear this bylaw, no matter its final form, will suffer the same fate as the current one. Bylaws aren't worth the paper they're printed on if they aren't enforced. My expectation is that council commits to follow the zoning bylaw in all planning decisions. The Manitoba Planning Act is also the law of the land. I expect that the practice of circumventing the zoning bylaw and subdividing land by flagrant misuse of variance provisions in the Planning Act will cease. If a proposal doesn't meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw, then an application for a zoning amendment is the legislative process designed to ensure municipal government accountability. When you seek to undermine our democratic safeguards, we end up with a racetrack where it shouldn't be, and a condo development where it doesn't belong, and time, resources, and legal fees needlessly expended by you and by the citizens who elected you to make things right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Glenn McKenzie.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have comments on a couple sections of this proposed bylaw, but before I start that, I want to comment on one of the reasons why this bylaw is being reviewed. Members of council, members of administration, and even some applicants have stated that according to the 2021 census, the population of St. Andrews has shrunk by 1.8% between 2016 and 2021. I want to take council back to May 1st, 2024, when their new-to-them CAO gave his first financial plan presentation. Within that presentation was a graph showing the population of St. Andrews from 2017 to 2021 based on numbers from Manitoba Health. The graph showed the population of St. Andrews increasing from 15,059 to 15,553, a 3.3% increase. The CAO stated in his verbal presentation that he preferred to use the numbers from Manitoba Health as, and I quote, "Not everyone fills in the census." In subsequent financial plan presentations, the Manitoba Health information was replaced by the census information, likely because the census information supported the premise of needing growth more than the Manitoba Health numbers did. If we use the Manitoba Health numbers for the same time frame as the census, 2016 to 2021, Manitoba Health shows a 3.24% increase in population versus the 1.8% decrease that's shown in the census. Looking at the 2019 to 2024 timeframe, the most recent 5-year period available from Manitoba Health, St. Andrews population grew by 4.3% in that timeframe. It's unfortunate that this information was not provided to Council as part of the financial plan presentation, as it does present a different picture of the population growth in the municipality. So I want to comment specifically on section 2.7.4, and I don't have the page number, which deals with in-office approval of minor variances not exceeding 10% of any height, distance, area, size, intensity of use, or parking space requirements. There are two problems with this section. I don't know why it's beeping like that. First, in-office approvals mean the variance does not have to come to Council for discussion. Lot sizes and area should not be part of this in-house approval process. We have seen in the past where developers take advantage of this 10% rule to reduce lot sizes below the required size. The Rose Meadows subdivision had 14 out of 22 lots, 60%, reduced by just under the 10%, which enabled one additional lot to be created in the subdivision. Variances are meant to be the minimal action necessary to comply with zoning bylaws. 60% is not a minimal action. The second problem deals with intensity of use. The first sentence in this section includes intensity of use as one of the parameters where a minor variance can be issued. The second sentence states, variances related to intensity of use shall not be considered as minor variances. So which is it? The first sentence says it is, the second sentence says it isn't. And nowhere in the document is intensity of use defined. I also want to comment on section 7.20, which deals with vehicle parking and storage. I want to point out that this section was not in the draft bylaw version that was presented at the open house. It was added subsequent to the open house. I would like to see this section removed from the bylaw as it is overly intrusive to residents. The section, I'm going to skip that. While limiting a maximum number of 6 registered vehicles may seem reasonable to some, the additional limits placed on the types of vehicles are completely unreasonable. The restrictions are, the 6 vehicles, you can have 1 travel trailer or 1 motorhome or 1 cargo trailer, 1 boat, and 1 truck with a registered gross vehicle weight of less than 15,000 pounds. Where'd I go? So, what is considered a cargo trailer? That isn't defined anywhere in the document. I have a travel trailer and a 4x8 utility trailer. Does this mean I can't have that anymore? I have friends, a number of friends, who have 2 pickup trucks as their vehicles that they park out on their driveway. This is just too intrusive. The other part of the section No commercial vehicle exceeding 15,000 pounds shall be kept on a lot in a residential zoning district. I can think of 4 businesses in my immediate area where their business is their commercial vehicle. What this would require them to do is to rent some space somewhere to store that vehicle. And I don't think that's what you want. I think my final question on this is, what is the problem here that council is trying to address? Because I just don't see it. Thank you.
Jerry Marquis.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Jerry Marks. I'm a 23-year resident of St. Andrews. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to the zoning bylaw and specifically 2 topics that have led me to oppose the bylaw in its current form. First is the clause related to the subdivision of attached dwellings. The second is on the timing under which this bylaw is being presented. Before discussing these 2 issues, I do want to recognize and thank Council for some movement on areas of concern since the open house. I see that the minimum lot sizes in areas zoned rural residential has moved up to 0.8 acres from half-acre lots. This is an important development given the amount of opposition to half-acre lots in South St. Andrews. Whether 0.8 is a sufficient increase is obviously subject to quite a bit of debate. I'll leave it to others to present on that matter. I would like to begin discussing my opposition to Clause 7.18 in the zoning bylaw, which governs the subdivision of lots for attached dwellings. The clause states as follows: notwithstanding the minimum dimension standards found in Table 9-1, Principal Use Table, and Table 9-2, Accessory Use Table, any parcel created pursuant to this section shall have a minimum area of 2,000 square feet and a minimum frontage of 20 feet. For those in the room that would like to visualize what these developments would look like, these are similar lot sizes to the row housing that we see on Main Street on the way to Winnipeg in West St. Paul. In fact, I believe this proposes even smaller lots than those. My concern isn't simply the size of an individual lot, it's about what kind of community we are choosing to build. My opposition is grounded in this. My wife and I, like many in the room today, moved to St. Andrews to raise our children. We looked at many different areas in and around the city, but we were struck by the beauty of South St. Andrews. The rural nature of the community would provide space for our kids to play, safety from the challenges of city life, and a sense of community which is sometimes lost in more populated areas. And this view of St. Andrews is what makes us special. We are not West St. Paul, we are not Selkirk, we are not the city of Winnipeg. Nor do I suspect those in the room here today would want us to become communities such as those. We are the rural municipality of St. Andrews, providing residents with a wonderful rural setting minutes from the conveniences of urban centers. In that respect, we are unique. And in full honesty, I do not believe we have promoted this uniqueness very well. And I'll speak to this more on that later. Back to the bylaw clause. Despite specific zoning requirements for various zoning types, this particular clause would seem to supersede minimum dimensions and could potentially open the door for these rural housing developments across the municipality. The clause is worded as such, which would seem to bake in attached housing subdivisions as normal course of development. I can appreciate that these developments may be suited for rural suburban designation, such as the areas around Lockport. I actually do support increased densification in that particular area, which I will come back to as well. However, these developments should not be promoted in all zoning areas. It appears to me that Section 7.18 is silent on the conditional use approval that currently gives council and the public the opportunity to scrutinize these developments as land use decisions. I asked Council to clarify exactly what public and council approval processes would apply to developments proceeding under 7.18. Specifically, can you confirm whether attached housing developments that is permitted under this section of the new bylaw would require a conditional use application or a public hearing? If the answer is no, then what mechanisms remain for council and members of the municipality to have a public, site-specific discussion about the appropriateness of the development before it's approved? And if it is confirmed, why does the current processes related to conditional use for these type of developments not apply? My recommendation to council is straightforward. Remove section 7.18 from the bylaw and continue to evaluate these proposals to the existing development and conditional use processes. Now on to my second point of concern regarding the timing of the development of the zoning bylaw. I have concerns on two fronts. First is a more simple one. We are less than 3 months from a municipal election. We may very well have a new council with a 4-year mandate that may have very different views on these zoning changes. I have to ask, why are we making fundamental changes to our zoning framework immediately before an election? The second point on this topic is more important. I have been fortunate to have spent 27 years working for the Government of Canada and a good portion of that time in the area of community economic development. I've had a chance to talk to municipal leaders and staff across the province, and I have seen cities, towns, and municipalities with incredibly innovative approaches to economic development. The most successful communities have something in common. They have a clear, long-term vision for what they want their community to be. Here in St. Andrews, I have not seen any attempts to develop a long-term strategic vision and economic development plan for our community. There are critical questions to be asked here. Where do we want our community to be in 20 years? What are the housing, commercial, and industrial needs of our community? What type of housing is required? Is there support for densification? If so, where? Affordable housing, is that a priority? What can we do to encourage aging in place, which we've heard a few times here tonight? What type of services do members want from the community? What type of services do the members of the community want? Are residents willing to pay more taxes for enhanced services? In terms of industrial development, what type of development do we want to see? Do we want to continue to support surface-type industrial development, or should we be looking at value-added development? These are the type of questions that should be raised with the community and should drive economic development in St. Andrews now and into the future. St. Andrews has tremendous potential. From a living standards perspective, as I mentioned earlier, we have a beautiful, rural, historic community that we do not promote nearly enough. We have significant industrial capabilities, including an airport minutes from Winnipeg. We have commercial space in Lockport with amenities such as gas, restaurants, groceries that we have yet to take full advantage of. And yes, densification in the Lockport area will help with that. We need a multi-year plan that is steeped in community consultation and establishes a long-term vision for St. Andrews. Council has had 4 years to develop such a plan, and we are still without a long-term strategic vision for our community. I say that not as a criticism of any individual council member or the mayor, but because the zoning bylaw we are considering tonight is too important to exist in isolation. The zoning bylaw should implement a community's vision. It should not be the document that determines the vision in the absence of one. It's putting the cart before the horse, as one would say. From that perspective, I would ask that any changes to the zoning bylaw be delayed until a long-term vision and economic development strategy be developed for the municipality. That plan needs to be driven through substantial community consultations so that we do not have situations like you are seeing today in this room. Only then would I support a revised zoning bylaw. So to summarize, I'm asking council for 2 things tonight. First, the removal of section 7.18 from the proposed zoning bylaw to allow council and members of the public to continue to have a say on site-specific attached housing subdivisions. And second, to delay adoption of the new zoning bylaw until St. Andrews has developed a comprehensive, long-term strategic economic development plan based on meaningful consultations with residents of this municipality. To be clear, I'm not opposed to growth. I'm not opposed to new housing. And I'm not opposed to density where density makes sense. I am opposed to making permanent changes to our zoning framework before we've had a chance to decide as a community what kind of community we want to become. St. Andrews has an opportunity right now to make thoughtful decisions about its future. Let's not simply ask what development can we permit. Let's first ask what kind of St. Andrews we want for our children and our grandchildren. Let's develop that long-term vision, and then let's build a zoning bylaw that helps us get there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Kevin Spencer. Kevin Spencer. C. McInnes. Thank you. Jay McInnes. Edie Telenko. Jim Bailey. Andre Friesen. Jason Ara. Sorry, I forgot the name. It's 17 Settlers Trail. Lisa, oh, it's Aaron. Lisa Aaron. No, we only got 6 more, 8 more. Neil Saralon. Walter Weiss. Weiss.
Some of these speakers that we've just heard are going to be hard to follow. It's been excellent. I guess my first question is for WSP. Does WSP have any working relationship with developers? Of course you do, yes. Yes. And so how are you guided in what you're supposed to do? Are the council involved? So they had some input into it. Does the currently approved development on River Road meet the new bylaw? I don't know what that development is, but I can't. Would that not have been a good idea to determine? By somebody?
Sorry, Mr. Weiss. We're dealing with your input for the rezoning bylaw.
Well, I just thought it would be interesting to know if the one that was approved on
that one was passed. That's nothing to do with why we're here tonight. We're asking for public input to help council to see what you guys want, what you want changed in this zoning bylaw.
So that is a fait accompli, and it's going ahead?
No, it's not a fait accompli. We're asking for what your concerns or comments, what input you want in this bylaw.
So the answer sounds to me like it's no to what's going on River Road. It doesn't meet what we're trying to do.
Well, that's passed. That was passed in 2025, in May of 2025. That's not why we're here today. We're here on the zoning bylaw because it's 25 years old. We're legislated to update the bylaw.
Okay. While I understand the legislative requirements to modernize municipal bylaws, this blanket update introduces structural shifts that directly threaten the equity, privacy, and traditional lifestyle of existing rural lot owners like myself. I got two issues here amongst the many others. I understand there is the preservation of conditional versus permitted use safeguards. The transition of higher density residential options from conditional to permitted uses strips local neighborhoods of their voice. For established quiet roads like I live on and the surrounding maturely developed areas, any future multifamily housings, secondary suites, or dense subdivisions must remain strictly conditional and not automatically permitted. This ensures that we, the neighbors, who rely on shared groundwater aquifers and local ditches for drainage, retain our legal right to notification and a public hearing. There's another issue here, which is the prevention of pre-zoning adjacent lands.
Could you, what?
I don't know. Okay, I just went through it. I didn't bother writing down exactly where it was. These things popped out at me. Yeah.
Well, I know, but it's not, this isn't the only matter on any of our desks, you know.
Well, I'm not blaming so much the council because you're elected, but do we not have somebody on staff who reviews what's happening here and has some knowledge?
Of course we have.
Certainly more than us in the room here.
We have Braden, who's our excellent planner, who fills council in. Council have not gone to university. We're not registered planners. We depend on our staff.
And I give you credit for that already, because if I were elected, I would be in the same situation. But so it's Braden that understands these things. And that lady in white, where is she?
Could you address the chair, please?
She's the one that was pointing out a whole bunch of mistakes.
And we've taken notes of it, and that's for tonight, that council will have further discussion on this.
And who made those mistakes?
Well, she pointed it out. We have to have discussion on it.
How much did we pay for those mistakes?
I have no idea.
Yes. Yeah. We chose Settlers Trail, where I live on, 45 years ago, precisely for its quiet rural charm and open spaces. Bylaw number 4438 must not serve as a backdoor mechanism for developers to bypass public scrutiny at the expense of established residents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ruth Weiss? Oh, okay. Joan Simpkins?
Firstly, since we're meeting in a church, I'd like to say amen to my brother Jay over there. I've heard some wonderful presentations this evening, and I've agreed with pretty well all of them. I know when I met with at the public meeting in the community club in St. Andrews, one of the topics I brought up was water. There was at that time, no consideration of the aquifer, and was told, well, that wasn't in their domain. I was glad to see there was some mention of that in the presentation tonight, and also brought up that there has to be some investigation of whether our aquifer, what will it support? The other thing I'd just like to mention was the council looking for trust, and yet the first high-density things that come up are one on Chiswick Road, which does not empty onto a main street. It goes through another community. The second being on the historical River Road, the 55 plus or whatever high-density community, which does not fit on that area. So you're asking us to trust you in so many of these areas and these zones, and yet our history with this council does not support that. So I'm hoping, again, I'm not totally against increasing density, but as so many have said, in Lockport or in more maybe closer to Main Street on high-density roads already, not in middle of residential areas. That was a big mistake. That's all.
Thank you. Barry Cron. Oh, I've got, he spoke.
I'm going to, Madam Mayor, esteemed council, I'm going to speak just briefly because everything I wanted to say is covered. I could almost take my pencil and stroke stuff off as it went. I'd just like to note that Jay Sandylands, who I'm sitting beside, he's not one vote, and he's not one voter. There's a group of us. We have captains, we have generals. We're about 600 in total right now, all opposed to high-density housing. So when I hear comments like we're looking out for the other 11,000 or something, by the time we come back here in another 14 days, because every single person we approach is against it, will be 1,200. Now, I want to talk about the River Road development because we're talking about bylaws right now. Hold on.
Sorry, Barry, we're talking about, do you have sections here? Today, just before us, as I explained several times, is just the rezoning bylaw. We want public's input so we can have council discussion on what you want
Right.
to see.
The last fellow touched on it.
So what are you referring? Could
voted
you refer to a page number?
Project through by bypassing the existing bylaws.
We're not
So
here to
why-
discuss that. We're not here to
Why are we
discuss.
talking about bylaws right now if you guys can just navigate through variances and development plans and pass anything you want?
We actually, people don't know, Red River Planning is, everybody, a lot of people have issues, you know. They're the professional planners. Councils rely on planners to give them advice.
That's right, and the RRPD suggested it was a bad idea. You voted for it. And your intelligent young guy over there said, this is how we get into trouble when we do stuff like this.
So, okay,
So just
that's in the
admit the
past.
fault.
So now we're dealing with the rezoning bylaw. What would you like to see changed in this bylaw? The
I
other
would
thing
like
is
to
in the
see
past. We can't
high-density
change that.
housing looked at, and I would like to see that bylaw written in stone so that this council cannot bypass it. No discretionary decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now because I've got so many lists, is there anyone that I have missed that wishes to speak? Mr. Ralph Quaid, come forward, please. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, my name is Ralph Quaid, Madam Mayor, Council. I'm a newbie to St. Andrews, and I moved here in 2021, 39 years in the military. I grew up in St. James, and we drove through this neck of the woods every time we went up to Lee River. And it was always a dream of ours to finally own a home here. We bought a house in 2 days on Parish Bay, and then on our way to the airport, we heard the story of Mayor Sewell's dilemma and removed from council. So that was my first opening to St. Andrews. And then being a homeowner in St. Andrews, I became very involved with Jay and the team on trying to figure out what the best way forward is. And it's communication. And I see that when I look at the information that was passed at the open houses, the lack of information in the community. So am I against the bylaw in totality? No, I'm not. But there has to be a more approachable growth to it. And that is that it has to have community involvement. And I think as councillors, we automatically throw you under the bus because somebody seems to think that you're out for, making money here or whatever. We don't see that. But the community needs to be involved. And I think that's what we're looking at from our standpoint, is that you've heard the complaints. We've heard people with corrective measures have gone through the document and found the errors. So if there's errors, we're stalled. So you can't move forward. This is a second reading of this document. So what am I opposed to? I don't think it's developed properly. I think there's so many issues that are in this bylaw, whether it's pre-election phase, whether it's pre-dynasty, what's going to happen in St. Andrews, it's all irrelevant. But the concern of the people is that we're not involved in that process. There used to be subcommittees on council. Those were abolished.
Okay, I'll stop right there. I don't know if you heard all the rules.
No, I wasn't.
What
I was
sections?
on a plane from Vancouver.
Okay.
And I could not log in onto
That's
the live
fine, thank you.
broadcast. Yeah. So
What sections we're here about the rezoning bylaw? We're asking for your input tonight.
So 4438, I object to the entire document, specifically because it's not involved the community as it should be. You are entrusted with our vote to do whatever's best for the community. Got that. 4438, I'll just reiterate, I'm opposed to it, the way it stands now and the way it's written. The subcomponents of it, when I'm reading through this document, I'm thinking, oh my God, this is an HOA. You are trying to convince these people that they can't have more than 6 cars. I'm fighting for multi-generational zoning. Did not see that in the document. So still 4438, still not in there? Great. But if I have kids that are living with me and 6 cars, but I can only put 3 in my garage, then I got to fight with a trailer. Then I got to fight with this. I got to fight with that. That's the peanut stuff. We are looking for guidance on our growth in our community. We went from 1.38 down to less than 0.5 or whatever you want to call it. There should have been a gradual drop, not hey 60%. We're going to let this guy do this, whatever. Okay, so the document is not good. I don't think I'm not a literate person. I would like to see the bylaw from previous compared to the next one with the proposed changes, but the layman terms. You said it yourself. We're not lawyers. We don't understand thou shalt, thou will, whatever. I went to my friend Chat and I said, hey, why is this written in legal terms? And that's because when those terms are challenged in court, the legal system prefers it to be legalese, so it can be argued. But we are the layman. And there is supposed to be those bylaws in a layman format, so those of us who join the military, that are not educated to the higher level to understand those bylaws. Which is why I think this document needs to be revised with community involvement so we can move forward with this, because we all want to see growth. And that was a good point there about the health stats versus the other stats. I thought that was brilliant. And there's a lot of brilliant people in here. You should pat yourselves on the back for doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that I've missed? I'm sorry, your name again? Okay.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to ask my question. Table 9.1 doesn't have a page number. It's about proposed use, I think it is. I'm trying to understand, based on the conditional piece in there, for different housing types, if it wasn't consistent with the current bylaw and it's not consistent with what you're proposing as a new bylaw, how did River Road get approved? That's my question.
I sorry, can't answer it.
I mean, you said to us it got approved in 2025.
Yes.
Doesn't meet the current bylaw requirements by lot size.
does not have piped-in water? Any of my neighbors here know, does it have piped-in water? No? Okay. So how did that get approved? And will that also happen with Walter Road? You know, the Deer Rapids, Walter Road, River Road piece that's being proposed? Which bylaw will that be covered under? And does it matter if they can get approval when they don't even meet the minimum requirements of what exists now?
Okay, we've heard from everyone. Thank you. Did Red River Planning or Megan WSC, do you have any closing comments to make?
Mayor Sol, efficient housing, could she please define that?
Oh, okay.
I did look through my speaking notes, if that's what you were referring to today, and if I misspoke, that's my mistake. My speaking notes say efficient servicing, and so that was my reference. If I did misspeak, it wasn't intentional to say efficient housing. Okay, there's a few sort of larger items that have been raised that I just wanted to maybe help clarify the intent of in the bylaw. So Section 2.7 is variances. So there's been discussion of attempts to sort of, I guess, fast track process and stuff. So the variance process is not defined only in this bylaw. It's reflective of what is required provincially and provincially legislated under the Planning Act. The Planning Act, since 2011, I believe, allows councils to implement an administrative zoning process not exceeding 15%. And council has elected to establish in theirs, you can't go more than that, but you can go less than that. And so this draft bylaw has 10% as being treated as administrative variance. The intent behind that is that the variance process requires a public hearing, notification. It can be administratively time-consuming for both municipal staff and council. We did do an analysis of variances that were at that would qualify in that administrative range under 15%. And almost all of them that went forward with the process previously were approved by council. And so it seemed, it's a way to reduce administrative burden, and it's identified at 10% right now in the bylaw, not 15, which is the maximum you can go to under provincial legislation. I think there was also a question about varying uses, and so the administrative variance is just for numerical requirements in the zoning bylaw. So a lot size, a setback, you can't vary a use. Let me just. Okay, the next section I have flagged is 7.18, subdivision of attached dwellings. So this provision is a common provision in zoning bylaws to allow a separate dwelling unit in either a bungalow or a row house to have separate tenure. So for example, if there's a 2-unit bungalow, it can be subdivided down the shared wall, and 2 people can own it. The zoning requirements in the back of the bylaw that control what sort of type of buildings can go on a lot are controlling, in the case of a 2-unit dwelling, that lot size is for the 2-unit dwelling. It's not for the individual units. And then section 7.18 provides the opportunity for people to subdivide essentially down the shared wall to allow them to have separate tenure. So naturally the size requirements of those individual units are going to have to be smaller than what the larger one is. The intent is not to get more units on that piece. That's not what that provision does. 7.20 vehicle parking and storage. So I believe the existing bylaw has a maximum of 4 parking spaces for residential lots in the municipality. Whether or not that's actually enforced, potentially it's not. So this provision, it was added in as, another sort of part of this process was working with RRPD as they update all the other zoning bylaws under their jurisdiction. And this was one of the provisions that came up with other municipalities, as well as sort of like a neighborhood sort of livability piece in terms of trying to have something if there is a property that is unsightly, in terms of number of vehicles. So it does only apply to vehicles stored outside, so it doesn't apply to vehicles that could be stored in a garage, for example, and a maximum of 6 vehicles for a single unit dwelling seemed like a reasonable amount of vehicles. But if, again, the provision does not have to be in there, the number can change, that is up to council's decision based on feedback that you've heard. And then I think the final one that I sort of recall, and I'm happy to answer other questions, but we maintained, in residential areas, we maintained where multi-unit dwellings are a conditional use now under the existing bylaw. We maintain that in this bylaw. So multi-unit dwellings are a conditional use in the RA zone, which they are right now. And then they are a conditional use in the new RG zone, which doesn't actually exist on the map anywhere right now because that's a new zone. They're not permitted anywhere else. They are permitted in commercial zones, so CG, CH, and RT. So we have not taken away that process for somebody to come forward and have a public hearing and all that requirement for multi-unit dwellings in a residential zone. Braden, was there anything that you had on your list? You have one?
And I'll touch on a few things that Megan spoke on there too. Just going back to we had some questions about fast-tracked variances. So we do already have wording in the current zoning bylaw, section 331.5. It's worded a little bit differently, and I do make note of the presentation there for intensity of use in both sentences in the draft bylaw, so something to definitely look at, but that would be up to council to designate someone like myself as the designated officer to possibly approve minor variances. It's not a practice that we do right now. Having that framework in the bylaw would allow us to do so, though. There was, of course, questions about the residential vehicle parking, section 720. Just wanted to note on that's specific to the residential districts, not the agricultural districts, so RR, RA zone, RG zone, etc. Just wanted to clarify that. Of course, if council wanted to see revisions to the number of vehicles, definitely something that we could look at, and that's visible vehicles parked in the front. There were questions on the depth calculations of the various lots. So they're based on frontage, minimum frontage requirements in area. So you could reverse the calculation to achieve what that minimum depth would be if you went with the minimum frontage requirements. But if you were to exceed the frontage, it could vary the depth. So we could have some irregular shaped lots. That's just how the zoning is calculated. We understand that not all lots are perfectly square, or how they may be laid out. There was section 8.7, the potential removal of the data processing center. So this is a use-specific standard. It's defined. I'm not saying that somebody could apply for a data center today. They could. It would be treated as any other industrial use if it wasn't clearly defined in the framework of the bylaw. So just having that is just added requirements if someone were to propose that. We could certainly remove it, would still be subject to conditional use approval, depending on council conditions. The way it's worded right now, those are hard requirements, non-negotiable, right? So we could even further enforce that with more requirements or remove it completely. And I understand this is an inherently technical document. From my perspective, I'm working with a current zoning bylaw, and then we have the draft zoning bylaw. It's a lot. Again, it's a technical document. We can look at certainly communicating changes in a layman term. Redlined copy may be difficult given the severe difference between the two and where their sections are laid out and reorganized, but definitely something that we could look at for information at a adjourned hearing. It's something I could look at preparing. I do not have anything else to add unless there were questions.
Council members, does anybody have any questions? Comments? No, for council.
I just want to clarify, site area and width should not be allowed to have an in-house variance. The other parts are fine, but my point is site area and width should not.
And I can read the definition that we have right now for the minor variances that we have in the current bylaw. It's just a little bit different. So minor variations, development officers may approve in office with or without conditions, minor variations not exceeding 10% of the requirements of this bylaw, governing front, side, rear, or any other yard requirements as per the Planning Act. So everything else is a new inclusion in the zoning bylaw, like with how it's worded right now in the draft.
Councillor Sliker has a question.
So, I'm just a general question here. We had come in front of us. Oh, shoot, sorry. Usually I'm loud. Okay, so we've had come in front of us, people that apply for variances, and it's a 10-foot variance between the eave troughs or whatever, and they are at 9.4. So that resident has to pay RRPD to apply for a variance for that 6.
That's not what I'm suggesting.
Do Dickey thing. I'm just pointing out, Mr. McKenzie, because I've lived this one and it broke my heart. So the 10% variance would have allowed that resident to, would have allowed, if I understand correctly, am I not right, Braden? Would have allowed Braden to have studied it, recognized it, and said, okay, this fits the 10%, and we're not going to make you pay for that stupid little thing. Is that correct, Braden?
Santan will
Yeah, Santan and myself can answer that jointly. Yes, there's a process to this. I believe there are still fees payable to that. The requirements are different, though, compared to a regular variance hearing, and I'll hand this over to Red River Planning.
Thank you, Brendan. Thank you, Council. So just a quick clarification, we still approve minor variances that are within 10% of the yard requirements all the time. Nothing new in that.
It's my understanding that St. Clement does their own, do they not?
No, so we have an agreement with St. Clement's that
Yes,
they
I
do
know.
their own,
So, but
yes.
they're doing their own,
Yes,
correct?
but the 10% requirement is in the
So-
bylaws, yes. Yes. Just a quick comment on the procedure as well. We would request that the council adjourn the hearing, keep the public hearing open, and then give a new date, just to consider the provincial feedback.
Okay, I'll use the mic.
Excuse me, could I add a suggestion? I think it would have been a lot easier for all of us if someone in working for St. Andrews, when something like this is done, they don't they identify the implications for us living here. It's a huge document to go through and find everything. And so all the changes, I would expect we would be advised of the implications of those changes.
Yes, I have a statement. Sorry, yes, I have a statement to read to advise all of you. Okay, first I have a statement to read, more advice, but we have to close the public hearing. Be it resolved that council adjourn the public hearing to September 22nd, 2026 regarding the St. Andrews zoning bylaw number 4438. Could I get a mover, please? Councillor Hunt, seconder. Councillor Mondor. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Unanimous, that is carried. So I'd like to, at the end of the public hearing now, I'd like to thank everyone who took the time to attend tonight's public hearing. Council appreciates your comments and concerns that have been presented tonight. The feedback received this evening has been valuable and has provided council with additional information to consider. In light of the comments made during the hearing, council, we will not be making a decision on the rezoning bylaw tonight. Council believes that it is important to take the opportunity for further discussion and review of the matters raised. We also are awaiting comments from the provincial agencies, and we will not make a decision unless we have full information and their comments. So to ensure that all information is carefully considered, again, we have adjourned now till September 22nd, and at that meeting, only new information will be allowed at that time. So on behalf of council, thank you again to everyone who participated in this process. Your engagement is an important part of local government, and we appreciate your interest and involvement in the community. So thank you so much. Oh, the location, I've just been advised the location of the venue on September 22nd will be at the Clandeboye Council Chambers, and the meeting will be at 5:30, start at 5:30. It will also be published on our website. So thanks again, everyone, for being here. And now we have the adjournment. Be it resolved that the special meeting of council be adjourned at 8:44 p.m. Could I get a mover, please? Councillor Dornbos, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marecki. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.